vehicle with peak original equipment technology. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
All right, well, welcome here. We're live from the media center here in beautiful Gainesville, Florida. Really cold Gainesville, Florida here for the 2025 kickoff to the season here for the Emily Motor Oil Gator Nationals. Yeah, surprisingly cold here in Florida. Usually we come here and it's like what, sweltering 90-degree hot. You're sweating through 3 layers of shirts. Every single pair of pants is ruined. Now we come here and it's like almost springtime weather up in the north, except now it's snowing in the north. So make of that what you will. We had a really fun time getting down here this week, which is a story that I'm thinking is going to be a good icebreaker to kick this off with. Kevin's going to come up here, sit by me, and join me for this story. So when we originally started this trip, I tried renting a BMW from the rental car company. Well, for policy reasons, they said I can't rent the BMW, so they stuck me in a Volvo. What I did not understand at the time was that three of the valve stem caps for the tires were missing, and the passenger front tire had a leaky tire, so it was slowly leaking air throughout the week. I had the car on Monday. I picked him up last night from the airport. We're halfway across the bridge to St. Petersburg, and we had a tire go down. The tire almost blew out. We limped about, what, 5, 10 miles to a gas station. I start putting air into the tire, and it's holding air, and then it starts bubbling out the sidewall.
Yeah, so here's a quick tip for folks who are auto inclined or not auto inclined. If the sidewall of your tire is extended past your rim, the tire's gone. Um, but so I start diving into the trunk, trying to get the spare, which was a donut, unfortunately. Which I'm glad that it even had a spare because a lot of newer foreign cars do not have. They have just a little air compressor in the back. Um, but this one did have a spare, and started to put that on, and then have to drive right back across the bridge, right back to the airport that I just came from, um, to pick up a new vehicle.
Yeah, so it ended up being a real fun experience because, like I said, I started the trip trying to get a BMW. They wouldn't give it to me. Well, as an apology, they gave me a newer BMW that's about 6 months old, and I paid about $200 less for it. So, good start to the trip. We do have the live chat down below, so if you have any comments or questions, be sure to send them my way, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. I know Kevin's going to be monitoring it as well. We have a lot to go over to get ready for the 2025 season. We're also going to be talking to a couple of the drivers. We're going to have Justin Ashley coming up here in about 15 minutes. And then from then on, we're going to have drivers coming in. And I know Blake Alexander's going to be coming up. Both advanced Hine riders, Richard Gadson and Gage Herrera, as well as Chase Van Sant and everybody else is going to be able to come up here. And we're going to be able to get their final thoughts before the first qualifying session, which is going to be really, really fast track tomorrow with how cold the weather is. Before we jump into that, I do want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Drag Race Bracket Bonanza who have been so kind to let us borrow their backdrop and their little corner up here in the media center to allow us to do this live stream without being in everybody's way as much as we already are. So thank you to them. Be sure to sign up today. A lot of fun playing that game. It is one of the most active ways to get involved in drag racing without losing money on the sport. So be sure to hop in on that. You get a lot of cool prizes. As a matter of fact, they got a lot of cool stuff back there. They got winter plaques. They got basketball back there too. I know they give out championship belts. So they're investing a lot of money in the sport to bring some fun activities for you to enjoy the race and be a lot more invested in what's going on and all the fun things going around within the world of drag racing. So sign up for that today.
And it certainly is a fun game to play. It certainly is a fun game to play. So, say you have a friend, and he thinks Steve Torrance is going to win in Top Fuel, but you yourself think that Brittany Force is going to win in Top Fuel. Well, sign up, fill out your brackets, and at the end of the day, you can see who was really right and who was the closest to being right.
Yeah, if you're, it's the most easy way to get infuriated at a drag race and start wanting to send curse words towards your favorite driver because they smoked the tires at half track. Um, so jumping into the first story, we had a big bombshell drop yesterday to kick off the season. That being Eight-time Top Thrill World Champion Tony Schumacher was big questions going into this year where he was going to land after losing his ride at JCM Racing. We're going to be talking about that here in a second, but we just found out yesterday he's going to be driving a part-time schedule for Rick Ware Racing this year. So to start that off with, I mean, Rick Ware's only been in the sport for what, 3 years at this point? He already has Clay Millican, a proven champion, one of the best racers in the history of IHRA, one of the best top field drag racers of the 2000s. Now they have the guy who dominated at the same time that Clay did in NHRA. I did the math. They got 14 world titles and 150 national event wins across both categories. You get the two most dominant drivers of the last decade and a half, and now they're both on the same team this year.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's fantastic to see Rick Ware continuing his investment in HRA. You know, it's kind of something that I thought about last night. That Rick Ware Racing, their first national event that they participated in was our first covering it, the U.S. Nationals in 2022 when they brought out that Nurtec car. Um, but with a driver of Tony Schumacher's caliber, there was no question he was going to be on the grid or down there at the starting line at some point this year. It was just a matter of where. And top fuel rides are not exactly plentiful in the series right now. I think it's easier to get a funny car, but Tony Schumacher doesn't belong in a funny car. He belongs in a drag. Um, and it is fantastic, like I said, to see Tony in with Rick Ware Racing, to see Rick Ware expand out his operation, doubling up, and Clay right now is probably in the prime of his NHRA career for sure. So they're going to be a formidable team for sure this year.
And it's just going to be very interesting because I remember in January the questions came out about where he was going to land, and he was posting pictures of his bus getting prepped for the year. So it's like he landed somewhere. It's just nobody knew where yet. And I remember we were theorizing that it might have been the Torrance Racing Camp because there's still questions swirling around about what that team's going to be doing. The press release came out yesterday. They are running a full-time schedule in 2025. Only this time it's just going to be Steve. So Billy had fun driving full-time last year, and now he's back on the sideline working construction back in Texas. But Steve Torrance is back for what I believe it might just be one more year because obviously the other big headline, Toyota leaving at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think one thing that we were talking about when that headline came out is that the biggest thing that is leaving with Toyota is their funding. And for a team like the Torrance family that's self-sponsored, that is, completely self-reliant on itself outside like Redline Oil and all that, Toyota is a huge part of their program. And of course, they have a huge impact on the funny car scene as well because they produce bodies and they're also all the R&D work that they put in. They were in terms of manufacturer involvement, like actually hands-on, they were probably the most hands-on into the sport. um, so it is there's ripple effects there. But I think teams like Ron Caps, I think the Clita team, they'll be fine. But maybe Del Worsham's team.
Speaking of Del Worsham, there's a lot of questions about what that team is going to be doing now that Alexis DeJoria moved over to JCM Racing, ended up basically taking Tony's spot. Now it's become a funny car team, and now it's on a Dodge body. So Alexis now quickly jumping ship from the Toyota brand over to Dodge, where she knows they're going to be sticking around for the next couple of years. So it's going to be a very interesting development. But now that team has kind of just become almost a hired gun, if you would say. Bobby Bodie driving this weekend. He drove back out at the Puro Shootout down in Bradenton, but we saw yesterday Julie Natalis was getting her funny car license in that car. So that's just kind of become a hired gun ride for anybody who has the money, anybody who has the backing can go take that ride. And we see time in and time out that car, when it's in the right hands, it has the right setup, can go out there and turn on wind lights whenever it wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of want to circle back to Alexis DeJoria. It definitely is a fantastic move to jump over to a different team, a different body a year ahead of schedule because Dodge is still continuing to develop their bodies in terms of aerodynamics, all that stuff. I mean, if you watch the testing here from the last couple of days with Brian Loans, he explained how important aerodynamics on a funny car is and how it causes the car to behave at certain intervals of the track. And Dodge is continuing their R&D work into the funny car body, so it is. if you want the latest and greatest, you obviously want to align yourself with a manufacturer who puts in like that and continues to develop. Now, as for the Del Worsham team, we've seen a couple drivers go for the funny car license over the last couple days here. But it's great to see Bobby Bodie in that car. He is definitely a up and coming talent with the right equipment. And I think, the Del Worsham car, it's a race winning proven car. It's just, the combination has to be correct. And I hope we see Bobby Bodie in for half, if not the full season, because he definitely deserves it.
And we just had Justin Ashley walk into the room here, so we're going to get him set up and squared away. We'll give you guys a quick second to hear from our partners at Peak, who are sponsoring us this weekend, and then we'll get to talk to one of the baddest top fuel drivers in the class.
Protect your vehicle with Peak Original Equipment Technology. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
All right, so now we're joined here with, just like I said beforehand, one of the baddest top fuel drivers in the class right now, that being Justin Ashley, driver of the SCAG Power Equipment Toyota Top Fuel Dragster. It is the eve of the kickoff to the season. I know you guys started yours down in Bradenton, but it's got to feel really good to come out here to Gainesville to get ready for the new year.
Oh, it always feels good. I love starting the year here, and I think everybody's kind of in the same boat. There's just a certain level of optimism, right, going into the year. We're all looking forward to a good, long, healthy, safe, and successful year. So the guys spent a lot of time working on the shop, trying to make some changes that hopefully will catapult us into an even better year this year. So now's the time where you kind of get to see all that hard work you put in the off season come to fruition. So just eager to get things started.
One of the stories is, of course, how last year ended. You guys came in there with a really good shot to win that championship, and you lose it, especially with how it started. You guys are getting ready for your run, and then a plane crashes into the
Yeah.
paddock, and then you end up having to get pushed back for 2 hours to come out. And I remember after that round coming down there, you guys were already long gone, ready to get out of the track. Having that off season to rebuild and refocus, what kind of changes have you guys made to come back into this year to prepare to try and make sure stuff like that doesn't happen again, where you can go out there and contend with Antron Brown and those guys to go get that championship?
Well, I think it's about finding the right balance, right? Because the truth is, we did a lot of really good things. There's 20 races, and I want to say for 19 and a half of them, right, we did the right thing. It's just that first round, it was more just situational. Sometimes you can't control it. You can never control everything, is what I'm trying to say. And we went out there and we pretty much executed on what we wanted to. We wanted to run a little bit quicker, probably a high 360. But we ran a 370, and sometimes you're going to miss. And we missed maybe a little bit, but he just stepped in and took advantage of it. So I think what we learned is that you really have to create as wide of a gap as you can going into Pomona, because when it's points and a half, anything and absolutely anything could happen. We've seen it in the past. It's very unpredictable. So that's our goal. We're going to try and make it a 5 race countdown, if you will, and then see what happens at Pomona. It's much easier said than done. The competition out there is just stout. It's unbelievable right now in top field, but we'll do the best that we can.
Like I said, mentioned right before you guys were supposed to make the scheduled run at the time it was supposed to go, you guys had that plane crash happen. We ended up sitting there for 2 hours, and you wouldn't think that would make a big difference, but with how the weather is in that area, it might have made the track just a little bit warmer. Just how much of a wrench did that throw into things for you, not only mentally, but also from a tuning side, just to try and get that car ready?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely changed things. It's you go up there with a certain plan that you've been working on all morning, and then the temperature changes, the track temperature changes, all the different variables come into play, but there's no excuses, right? I mean, Antron was in the same boat. So it definitely changed things up. It was certainly unexpected, and I don't think anybody's ever experienced anything like that before, but things can be worse. It was up to us to make the adjustment. I think we did a good job of making the adjustment. It just wasn't good enough this time, but with Mike and Tommy and the championship winning experience that they have, I'm confident. I know that the ball will bounce our way. It's just a matter of time.
The story every single year is just how lethal this class is. I mean, I'm already talking down the top field drivers who are now making the jump to funny car because we're in a position now where there's so many talented guys, there's not enough rides to go around. What's it like for you just coming back each and every year? And now we're looking at what, 12, 13 guys on a given weekend that could really easily have an argument to win a race every weekend.
It's awesome. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's exactly where I want to be. It's exactly where our whole Skag Power Command Toyota wants to be, right in the middle of the fight. And it brings out the best in everybody, right? They say, you know, iron sharpens iron, and that's kind of where we're at right now with the class. It's just top to bottom. 12 or 13 full-time cars, but then you even look at the part-time cars, are they really part-time cars? I
Exactly.
mean, not really, right? It's truly the definition of any given Sunday. So it's fantastic. It's healthy for the class. It's healthy for the sport as a whole. And the more cars, the better. It can get tough, because some of these races, 24, 25 cars. But honestly, if it was that way every race, I think it would be good. I think it's the way it needs to be.
We come into this week, and even on any given time we come to this track, it can be 99 degrees and 100% humidity. This track is still able
Yeah.
to have those quick low 3.7s, 3.38 runs. Now we're coming in here tomorrow. We're not going to touch 80 degrees all weekend. Just how excited does that make you guys want to go out there and try and reset some records? Because we already saw yesterday, Brittany with a 3:02 to the eighth mile in a test session. She shut off to a 3:71, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's that was a stout run they made. A lot of us have had most of us had the opportunity to test. So we have some runs under our belt. We had the opportunity to test and run at Bradenton and then test here over the last 2 days. So we all feel pretty prepared. So with that being said, yeah, we're eager. We're eager to go out there and try and lay down a number. And we'll see what holds. If it's not going to touch 80, the temperature, then we're all going to be in the same boat and everybody's going to be throwing down. And it'll be really interesting to take a look and see. As we go throughout the day, because that 3 o'clock session tomorrow, and I think it's around 5:30. So that 5:30 session, especially with Top Fuel running after Funny Car, I think that could be the quote unquote like all the mail right
Mhm.
type of session. So that'll be you're gonna have to throw down if you want to be in the top half of the field. And this place it's always packed out with
Yeah.
fans. It's one of our favorite places to come, and how could it not be? So we're hoping to put on a good show for everybody that's here.
And like you mentioned, the crowds always get packed when we come here. I remember 2 years ago, the place was sold out. And even though they never fully announced it, I wouldn't have been surprised if last year they sold out this place with
Yeah.
how deeply packed they were into the stands. Just how excited does that get you coming into this place? You have about arriving 5 hours early just to not get stuck in traffic. Then you go through the pits and it's just shoulder to shoulder. Everybody's wanting to come out there and see you.
Yeah, I've had a few funny stories of sitting in traffic trying to get into the track here
Exactly.
one way in, but leave early is what I've learned to do. But it's really impressive and it's really exciting for all of us trying to work our way through the pits on a scooter and a golf cart, and everybody kind of being toe to toe trying to walk through, and then trying to get through the gates. And by the time you get in here and settle down, this place is packed. And look, the weather here sometimes is hairy, right? It might rain sometimes. It doesn't seem to affect these fans at all. They stick it out. It is truly, truly impressive. It's incredible.
I remember last year, what was it, Saturday? It rained like 5 times in the span of the entire day, and they just kept coming out. They would go 7 rows deep, rain. They go back hiding under, and then come right back out. This is genuinely probably one of the coolest venues in terms of fan experience that we get to go to. But I mean, you talk about going to tomorrow. You're going to go to the 5 o'clock session. Track's going to be primed, ready to go. How much of an argument is it going to be trying to get Mike Green and all the guys to try and say, "Hey, let's go throw a PR number out there and see if we can't show these funny car guys up"? Or is there just kind of much of a war of like, let's just make sure we get this thing in the show first?
I think it depends. I think the answer is it depends on what happens during the first session. I think a lot of people feel the same way, but for us, our usual approach is, and Mike and Tommy can speak more to this, but make sure that we make a nice solid lap the first run down the session, feel like we're comfortable and in the field. And that opens up the opportunity to get after it a little bit and be more aggressive in Q2. So I think that if we accomplish what we wanted that first session, it'll definitely open the door for us to be much more aggressive in that second session. But you have to be aggressive, otherwise you're going to shake the tires and other powerly racetracks. So that's up to Mike and Tommy. They know exactly what they're doing. They're the best in the business, so we'll let them handle those decisions. But anytime we can try and go fast, I'm all for it.
One of the other big storylines later in the season, you talked about going into countdown mode. You talk about things you control and can't control. Well, a huge wrench got thrown into that back at PRI when they announced that now the Fall Carolina Nationals is now a four-wide race, which I know is a big hot button issue amongst you drivers. What's your thoughts on that going into this, knowing that now you could finish, third and you won't be able to make it to the semifinals? Because even though those semifinal rounds, especially the four wides, are crucial, especially in countdown mode.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is, the reason they're doing it is because they're doing it for a good reason, right? They're doing it because they think that's what's in the best interest of NHRA Drag Racing and the fans. So I'm on board. If that's what that means, then I'm on board. With that being said, of course, I think most of us we prefer two-wide racing. One-on-one, there's something about just going up there mano a mano and throwing down and seeing who gets the finish line first. So that would be my preference. But at the same time, it's really not a big difference, right? I mean, you can't control something like that. It is really neat to see, you know, over 40,000 horsepower on the starting line all at the same time. That is really neat. A lot of the fans really seem to like it, so I'm all for it. This is what it's going to be. So we got to go all in. Somebody's got to win it, right? So might as well be us.
And also with that as well, around that same time, I believe we're between St. Louis and Dallas, they're doing the Peach State Showcase in Georgia. NHRA is going back to Georgia, South Georgia Motorsports Park for an exhibition event. How excited are you to go do that, go experience racing up there in the Peach State with those Southern fans that get to only come down here about once a year?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I do not know. There's only a select number of cars that are going to be participating. I don't know if we're going to be one of them. I think we have to wait and see. I think there's only like 4 top fuel cars and 4 nitro cars that are going to run to the 8th mile, regardless of if it's us or not. I think it's good, man. I'm excited. I think it's great that we're expanding the sport to different regions, different areas that we haven't been in before or haven't been to in a long time. So I think it's an excellent idea. It's more of like a match race style to kind of bring Nitro and NHRA drag racing to that side. And I think it's an awesome idea. So we're all for it, and I think the fans will love it.
And last question before I let you go. One of the big storylines within the last few weeks is, who is the fastest motorsport out there. And, there's been a lot of comments thrown out there between, throwing the names of Austin Prock and Brittany Force and Bottas the third. You're one of those guys as well that can go up to those 338s, 339s. What's your take on all this about which one's the fastest racing on earth?
Well, it's the facts, right? I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I'm not going to argue. I mean, it's just, there's no reason to take my word for it. It's not an opinion. It's a fact, right? And the fact is that we have the fastest accelerating vehicles on the planet. You're talking about over 11,000 horsepower going to zero, almost at 340 miles an hour in under 4 seconds. So a lot of respect for F1, a lot of respect for NASCAR, a lot of respect for the other forms of motorsports and the drivers, man. They're super talented. Great sanctioning bodies. But here at NHRA, I mean, it's a fact, right? We have the fastest cars on planet Earth.
I guess one last question. One of the questions I'm most interested in is you speaking to the fans. What would your message be, to those IndyCar fans or NASCAR fans that might be coming out to these tracks for the first time experiencing drag racing of why they should stick their toes in the water and just invest in this? What's your message to them to one try and get hooked on the
Yeah.
sport?
Well, I think come, right? Take a leap of faith. I think that's the first step is choose to come to a race even for a day. Most of the time, when you choose to come to an NHRA drag race for a day, you leave and you fall in love with it. That's what happened to me. As a kid, I went and I fell in love with it. And it's just an amazing sport. I think one thing you'll see here that's different aside from obviously the fastest cars on the planet is the fact that the accessibility is simply different. Again, nothing against the other forms of motorsports, they're great, but if you want accessibility, if you want to be able to talk to drivers, take pictures, have every ticket literally be a pit pass, an NHRA drag race is where you want to go for sure.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you got a lot going on here for today as well as the rest of the weekend. So thank you for being able to come up here and sit down with us. And hopefully we get to see you go out there and put some fast runs on Friday.
Thank you. I appreciate you covering the sport and drag race bracket bonanza, right? That's where you got to sign up right there. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, man. Good luck
Thanks.
this weekend.
Have a good day. Thank you.
All right. All right. So guess we might take a quick break here and then we'll come back and regroup and get ready for the next segment. We see if any drivers are making their way up. Not right now, but we should have some here in a second. So we're going to take a quick break and then we'll regroup and recap some of the stories heading into 2025.
Protect your vehicle with Peak Original Equipment Technology. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
All right, welcome back here. We just spoke with Justin Ashley. Thank you so much to him and the team for letting him come up here and speak with us. Going back to Pomona, we talked about how crazy the experience that was, just not only with the racing in general, but with the plane crash. But with how Justin's season ended, it's gonna be a real big story to see how he's able to rebound because it's just an ongoing story where almost it feels like that Justin Ashley is starting to become the new Doug Coletta about wondering if or when he's gonna win that championship.
Well, and here's something that we failed to mention is he's still pretty early in his career. And, drag racing is not like other forms of racing where you reach the age of 30 and you get kind of booted for the next young kid in line. We're seeing people, John Forrest, perfect example, running it well into his 70s. So, Justin has definitely the potential to be the next, Tony Schumacher-esque driver and win that many championships, that many accolades in Top Fuel. And it's just about getting all the pieces right. Because if you remember back in his early days, he was part of a very small independent team. And now he's, with Toyota. He has Skag factory backing, so he is on an upward trajectory. And, he's on that arc every single year. He just gets that so much better. And he is a lethal opponent because of the reaction times, because of the raw speed of the car. I mean, he's an all-arounder in a top fuel car.
One of the things we haven't really got a chance to talk about so much is kind of the story of what that plane crash was like. Because when it happened, we were in the midst of covering the NHRA finals, which is a story in of itself. But we didn't get too many chances to really tell the story of what we saw because we were right next to the grandstands when that happened. But with everything going on, it became a secondary story that we just let everybody else go ahead and talk about for us.
Yeah, so Pomona, the NHRA Finals 2024, it is, the story has been
Good.
rehashed amongst ourselves, amongst our family members, amongst our friends many, many times in the last 4 months. Um, on our point of view, myself, you and our photographer Brody, we decided to watch round one of eliminations from the stands because we knew that the gravity of, round one for Top Fuel. We knew that Antron and Justin were going to be facing each other. So we wanted to kind of see what was going to happen. And you know, second pair out, Jasmine Selena, she wins her round, but she blows the supercharger apart. So they have to send out the FOD mat. And, that little bit of a delay, I think, to clean up the bits from that supercharger was,
Enough.
yeah. So, and that takes a couple minutes, like 3, 4, 5 minutes, depending on how much they have to do. Um, and we were sitting up, probably about halfway down.
Three sections away from the end of the grandstands where what happened.
Yeah, so, myself and our photographer Brody, we are obviously aviation enthusiasts, and we're watching the planes that did the flyover come in. And I remember Brody like pointing behind me, like, "Hey, there's some, kind of flying low," and I kind of like disregard it because nothing's gonna happen, And then we're waiting because we see the track is clear, and we're just waiting to hear the engines fire up, and then there's just silence, and it's like, okay, well, they just need an extra minute. And then we hear the announcement over the PA system.
This never happened before.
Yeah, this it is probably going to be one of those announcements that go down in history as like, in my 30 plus years at a racetrack, I've never had this happen before, but a plane has crashed at the top end of the track. Now,
And the fact that that was on Alan Reinhardt's last ever coverage of an
yeah,
NHRA race.
so
So that's how he went out the door.
if you know Pomona, there is an airport right across the street,
Right
literally
across.
across the street. And what's funny is when we were pulling in for the first time, you were like, "Hey, just so you guys know, the scoreboards are going to be lower than normal because a plane has hit them before." So it's like, okay, but I'm sitting here looking at the airport, and then I see this giant fire truck. It's one of those ones that fights like high-rise fires. It has the stinger is the technical term to it. Um, and I see it round the corner really quickly, and I'm following, and it's like that's coming into the Fairplex here. And then I kind of see down the grandstand, and I just see everybody just like looking over, and I'm like, that was here. Um, it that whole experience is probably just one of the craziest days of my life.
I mean, it's because also the fact I remember walking through the pitch or talking to some of the PR people, and the biggest question became not, just if everybody's okay, but, are we going to be able to finish this? Because the fact that we had the curfew in effect, so we were on borrowed time trying to get that event done, and thankfully they ran it later and paid whatever fine is needed to get that done. But, it just adds to that race of it being one of the probably greatest national events in the history of the sport.
Yeah, and the reason it was such a concern is unlike kind of here where the track is secluded from urbanized area, Pomona is at the Fairplex. Like it is in a very urban area. So you have to abide by the rules that the city county kind of places because you are borrowing their property essentially. Um, so I am glad that we got that in because we would have been in a mess because our flights are on Monday. But it was just an insane thing. And then another thing that we forgot that was happening at the same time, like we were trying to figure out what was happening, not just with the folks on the ground, not just the folks that's in the airplane, not just with scheduling, but there was a lot of panic over Ron Caps's family that were, their motorhome was nearby there, and there was a lot of,
If I'm correct, it was like the one right next to the one that got hit.
yeah. And then when you look at the photos, you just see roofs of Ram 3500 pickup trucks just smashed in. It was one of the more surreal days of my life. And then when we get back up and going 2.5 hours later, we finish top fuel, and the first pair out is Justin versus Antron,
Why I wrote
first and
that
second.
question.
Yeah, which is first and second in the points. Antron wins, and then we get to funny part. And
First round.
first round, and this is no disrespect to Jason Rupert's team.
They ran a career best DT too.
Yes, all the attention was on his, and deservedly,
Yeah.
because he ran a 391. But we knew that Austin Prock was going to be going to the next round. I don't, unless he smoked the tires or something crazy happened.
Yeah, when he made through half track, I knew it was over.
So I remember we were up in the same spots. This time, we were at the very end because they closed those sections down there off with police and batons and everything like that. Um, and I know you initially saw the scoreboard for Rupert, and then I saw the scoreboard for Proc, and I see 341.68. And I'm like, he did it. And all of a sudden, everybody else is like standing up, taking pictures of the scoreboard because on a official NHRA scoreboard, that's never been done before.
Yeah, and that's the one thing to keep in mind. And if Proc comes in here, we're going to make that comment is that while he is the first person to do it in NHRA, he tied Bob Tasca to the 100th of a mile an hour. So those two are tied for the fastest run in funny car history. But Proc is the one that's going to get the accolade for being the first person to do it in NHRA history.
Now, I will say this about that on his top interview is he acknowledged that Tasca did it at Bradenton last year. He didn't, say, oh yeah, he was very gracious in that moment to Bob because Bob worked so hard to try to get to that point and make it an official thing or an official NHRA record. And it was great to see that, Austin acknowledged him on the interview up there.
And real quick, going into what's going on right now, Donnie in the chat said, "Good to see you watching Super Stock on NHRA TV, which is what's going on. You're going to be, yeah,
They're right in front of us.
You're going to be hearing that. We're literally right here in the media center, so the stage lanes comes right up in front, and the track's like right out in front. Just to say this and go into it, Super Stock is probably one of the most underrated classes, and it's one of the great things about this race being a major event is that we get to kick off the season with these guys because we just saw not a couple pairs ago I believe it was a Chevy Cobalt, and now in that same lane is like a 2013 Dodge Challenger. There, it's one of the hidden gems because you got Cobalt racing a Charger, you got a Cobalt in the other lane right now.
Pontiac.
It's a Pontiac, and then you also have
Hey.
like Chevy pickup trucks racing my favorite station wagons. It's one of
Yeah,
the best parts about NHRA is seeing what kind of cars just come flying out of the garages in these events.
Pro Stock trucks.
Oh, it's amazing. Going back to, Charlotte, one of the big storylines for this year is going to be that Charlotte four wide event. On any given weekend that we go to a four wide event, it becomes a hot topic about, is this something that we should be doing? It's been around for 10 years and still a hotly debated argument. And, now is a countdown championship on the line because it's right there in the middle of it. So it's been a big conversation, not only amongst the fans, but also the drivers about what they think about this event.
I mean, it is going to shake up the countdown chase because keep in mind, we don't have, these massively long run-ups to a championship finale. It's 6 races, and that's not a ton of time in the drag racing world. And to have that smack dab in the middle is it's going to have some major implications. And I guarantee you, if a driver who wins that race ends up getting the championship because the other folks he's fighting for the championship have a bad day, he's going to love it. But if you lose the championship because of that race, you're going to hate it.
But also because of the fact, it's going to allow a lot of those smaller teams to sneak into the back half of the countdown, either by running the full season or, in Blake Alexander's case, runs part-time and gets in, actually having to earn his way in on points. It gives them a really big advantage to go out there and jump their way up into the points because of the fact that you only need to finish in the top two to make it to the final round.
Yeah, and it is. I will say this: the four whites have always been great events for the smaller, more independent teams because anything can happen. You're not facing just yourself; you're facing 3 other guys, and I don't know. There is mixed reactions about it, but I think for the newer drivers, for the lesser funded drivers, it's a fantastic opportunity to fight their way into a final, in a hunt for a Wally, and it will definitely shake up the countdown.
One of the drivers that is a big fan of it is Tony Stewart. I remember I talked to him here last year, asking him what events he was looking forward to. And the four wide was one of the first events that he mentioned just because of how unique it is and also because of the fact, again, you don't need to win the round to make it to the final round. You just be in that top two and you have a chance of moving all the way to have a chance to win that Wally.
And didn't he win his first Wally in a 4 wide, or at least get to the final? It was Las Vegas
Las
last
Vegas
year.
four wide and top alcohol. No,
Yep.
2 years.
Yep, 2 years ago.
So no,
Well, then he made it to the final last year in Top Fuel.
was it Charlotte?
I think it was Vegas as well. There's something about him in Vegas.
Vegas does really well for him. He won there and that. And because the other storyline is the fact he had now won every single track Las Vegas has. He won on the dirt oval. He won on the bull ring, I think. Then he won on the big oval for the Cup Series, and then he finally ran in a top alcohol dragster. He got the clean sweep of Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that for Tony, there are some tracks that where he's able to double up. Bristol would be one, Charlotte, Las Vegas,
IRP, I know he
IRP.
already has done that. He won an IRP in the top alcohol.
Did he?
Yeah, I think he won the Cletus and Cars event a
Yeah, but
year or two
technically,
ago. No, it was an NHRA divisional race. That counts.
okay, it counts. Okay, so yeah,
You know, let me talk about Justin. There's going to be a lot of top field drivers coming into this year that have a strong case, not only contend for a championship, but every single week. Like Justin mentioned, those part-time drivers that are going to be racing each and every week. TJ Zizzo, one of the big names that we always think about when we go to Chicago or the Midwest races. He's one of the guys, he went number one qualifier in Chicago. I believe he went number one qualifier in one of the early days, but sadly wasn't able to hold on to it. By the end of it, these part-time racers that come out here are lethal. So you're talking about 12 guys on a given weekend, but now with the part times, you're looking at almost a full field of guys that can say, I can win this race.
oh, someone mentioned in the chat that Sonoma as well, where he could double up. I completely forgot about
Which he
that
did
one.
make the finals there. He lost to Antron Brown in that race.
Yeah. But back to your point, drivers like TJ Zizzo, you can never take them lightly. He's small schedule, but big speed, big threat, and TJ, every time he shows up at a racetrack, he is there to fight for a Wally. And he has been that way for many a years. He has top-notch equipment. He has top-notch engineering staff. He has Ron Tobler, or he had Ron Tobler last year. I'm not sure how, his crewing lineup is for this year. Um, Ron, many years with Ron Gaps. Very, very talented. And it is 100% a professional team. And there are many others out there. Dan Mercier, with his performance in Chicago last year, proved he was, and he's here on property this weekend. Um, there are more full-time top fuel teams now, and there are more quality. And every race ends up as a dogfight.
One of the other things too is throughout the beginning portion of the season, the first half all the way up to the countdown, the story was which of the two Coletta drivers was going to win that championship. And then we go into countdown mode, and it really subsided. We come back here today. I was out on the test on the second day on Tuesday when they made runs. Both of them went out there and coasted to a low 370. So it looks like that team is already coming back in the form to go out there and win a championship.
Yeah, I mean, their troubles can be traced back to Indianapolis. That was a huge blow for that team. I know we made a lot of comparisons to Indy 500 Bump Day, where it's one teammate bumping another. Um, and they just never really recovered from that. Now, Doug had a little bit of a resurgence, but it wasn't enough to get him to a championship. It was almost an inverse of his 2023 season, where it was started off slow and then picked way up in the countdown. Last year, they were full throttle throughout the first 3 quarters of the season, but once you got to the countdown, it kind of trailed off. But no, it looks like the Cliff team is back to the form that we are so used to them being at.
One of the other interesting things too, we talked about Top Fuel. Funny car, the story right now is which team has regrouped the best to be able to go out there and compete with Austin Prock. Because much like Coletta, in the exact opposite way, Austin Prock started off with the questions of how quickly is he going to be able to get accustomed to driving a funny car, which he was doing well, but you're talking about knocking on the door with the big four of Tasca and Caps and Hagen and in some cases J.R. Todd and so forth. By the midway point of the season, it was a question of which of those four were able to catch up to Prock because of how much he'd really figured it out and how quickly that car was running. Because it seemed like every single week that guy was winning races. The only thing that was stopping him was himself.
Well, and when the peak car returned, Jack Beckman as well. You have to point out that in the 6 races he ran, he won 2 of them. So he had a really good record there.
And now Jack Beckman is coming back for a full tour behind the wheel of that peak funny car.
Yep. And actually, there was something that I wanted to talk about with Jack Beckman. I feel for him, this is kind of when he left 2020, that was not on his terms. That he wanted to stay, but the funding wasn't there, the seat wasn't there for him to climb into. And I feel like this is the second life in a Nitro Funny car. He is savoring every moment and giving it his all because he wants to, collect more trophies at the end of the day. He wants to fight for a championship, which he has the chance to do. He had a chance to do that last year and came up, and now there's a 2 on the name rail. But I think for Jack, he's probably as good as he's ever been.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, regroup real quick, and then we'll come back, hopefully with somebody to talk to and get some reviews, or we'll keep talking about the upcoming stories for the new year.
All right.
But one of the fun things about the Gator Nationals, especially the day before, is media day. So don't know who's waiting outside, and we just found Fast Jack Beckman, now the full-time driver of the Peak Funny, trying to almost say Camaro, the Chevrolet Funny Car for John Force Racing, coming back to the Gator Nationals as a driver for the first time in I believe 4 years. How exciting is it to be back down here for the Gators?
Where do you want me to start on that one, Noah? Yeah. So, yes, it's exciting. I've never done media day at Gainesville. It always was the season opener, which was Pomona for me. So it's a first for me. I've never started the season at Gainesville. I've never got to test 2 days before we raced at a track. We did that yesterday, had a real successful test. We did go to Bradenton for the Pro Superstar Shootout. We did get to kind of knock the dust off. We got a new crew guy on the team. Everybody obviously is back up and gelling fantastic on the Peak car. So you're not going to that first race saying, well, I just need to step on the throttle a few times. I feel pretty comfortable right now. We did change some things, and it's adapting to stuff, and it's little stuff. Someone has a brand new helmet. The fit's different, new seat insert in the car. Either I got an inch taller in the off season, or I got to get scrunched back down in that new seat insert. So all that stuff we've checked off. Now we start qualifying.
The one thing you were always talking about, especially last year when you came in to Brainerd to finish off the season, was kind of more so just enjoying the ride because you didn't know how many chances you were going to get to do this. Now you come back in a full-time season, you're going to run the full 20-race schedule. How gratifying is that to be able to have the chance to go run for a full championship, to be able to have it just your name on it?
So it gets back to perception on life, right? Is it more pressure because you're running for a championship, or is it less pressure because you're good for the whole season? I don't know. The situation is the situation, and I'm grateful that I've got an opportunity to run the entire tour. And by the way, first time I've ever run a 20 race schedule. Everything that I ever did was 24 races a year, except there was only 11 in 2020. And that's when my world kind of came apart because that's the last year I drove. Uh, and now I'm back and it's a 20 race schedule, but I get to do all of them. So I don't know. Sure, there's pressure, but man, I get to drive a Nitro funny car and it says John Force Racing on the side of it. It's pretty cool.
How is that gel with the crew going? Because, one of the big things was how much you gelled well with the team, morphing in there with Brittany and Austin and everybody. Now everything's gathered around you and it's going to be focused on you for this car. How has that process been?
So if the crew is really nice to you, that might be a problem. That means they don't like you that much and they're trying to be extra nice. They're busting my butt and I love it. We have a good relationship back and forth. We crack jokes, we make fun of each other, and then it's in a very respectful and loving sort of atmosphere out there. We came here to race, we came here to win. And that takes a certain mentality. And these folks, they know how to do that, right? They did it with John, did it when I came in the car last year, and now we want to do it and finish with the number one.
One of the things too is, especially with a track like this, the fans for the last few years have been showing up to this place. How exciting is it going to be coming in here on Friday and Saturday, knowing that these grandstands are going to be 7 rows deep, standing room only?
Yeah, so I told Christine, my lady, when we were coming out here, she's never been to Gainesville. I said, I think it's an accurate statement to say Saturday at Gainesville might be the most well-attended day in drag racing for the entire year. When we come out and run our car, you would think that the aim is the same, whether there's one person in the stands or 26,000 people in the stands. If you're strapped in that race car, you shouldn't be looking at the stands. I'm going to tell you, Noah, it makes a difference. When you get strapped in that car and you kind of take a look out there and you see people just packed everywhere. When you tow around here to line up for the burnout box and you look out there and you see them lined up the entire 1,000 foot, even past on the right-hand side, it makes a difference. It pumps your blood.
One of the other things too is you go from a team like Don Schumacher Racing, one of the elite teams, one of the best well-kept teams that are in drag racing, and now you go to John Force Racing, which is right up there with it. How has that difference been working with a team like Don Schumacher to now going to John Force Racing and working with them?
There's a lot of difference and there's not much difference. The commonality is it's the best parts, it's the best people, and it's the funding with the best sponsors to be able to go out and run for championships. The difference is John Force is a family-oriented deal, right? Don Schumacher Racing, we ran them more as individual teams. There was still the ability to share data, but not necessarily the same thing as John Force Racing. I've just been unbelievably fortunate to be able to drive for both of them.
And one of the interesting things about John Force Racing is there's not a lot of people that have driven those cars that don't have the last name Force, or at least have been involved in the family in some way. You know, Robert was married to one of the Forces, then you have Prock, and then Gary Densham as well. What does that mean to be able to say, put you in that?
So I don't want to put you on the spot because I'm a drag race historian and I would have got this radically wrong. But if I asked you just to take a guess, how many drivers have earned a national event Wally driving in a John Force Racing funny car? What would you guess off the top of your head? It'd be a low number, right?
10.
You'd guess 10?
Yeah.
Are you cheating?
Well, you just said it.
Are you serious? Can you name them?
Gary Densham, Prock, Robert Height, Ashley, Courtney, Brittany, John.
Oh, Brittany drives a dragster.
Oh, just in funny car?
Yeah, because that was the question in funny car. Oh, wait, you did mention John, so we're back to 6.
Back to John.
Ron.
Tony Pedregon. Trying to think the last of them. You obviously.
Thank you.
There's 2 more. Trying to think of the other 2.
One was a crew chief, one 10
Mike,
race.
that's Mike Neff.
Mike Neff. I don't know who we left out here. And I would feel horrible that we've omitted somebody. Maybe the cheater DJ here can tell us who we've missed here. But there's 10. I wouldn't have thought that. If you would ask me off the top of my head, I would have guessed 5. And that gets to your question is, it's a small group of people. I'm not related to John. I'm not the president of John Force Racing. Did we say Height?
Yeah, I think Height was one of the first ones.
Yeah. So, but it's a big number, but it's an exclusive club. Proud to be a part of.
You know, now that you have this full 20 race schedule, what races are you looking to be able to go back to that you didn't have a chance to last year because you came midway through the season? There are a lot of tracks in that first half.
Yes.
Now you go back to South Georgia Motorsports Park, and now you have another 4-wide event to look forward to. What are you looking forward to in this 2025 season?
Yeah. So in 2020, my last year driving, we did the Pomona Winter Nationals. We did the Phoenix National event. Everything was right with the world. I flew out here. I inducted Bones Baylog into the Drag Racing Hall of Fame on Thursday night. I came to the track Friday, and the world ended. They stopped the race. So fast forward 5 years later to come back and run the Gator Nationals at the beginning of the season, not at the end of the season, to go to Phoenix and run. Now, I've already run Pomona, but I didn't run the Pomona Winter Nationals. And the last time I ran the Winter Nationals in 2020, we wound up winning the race. Indy, obviously, I got to race it last year, but we had a car good enough to win, and we didn't. I want that one again. Dallas, I got to race, but I didn't get to race. We qualified great. I got vertigo, didn't show up Sunday. I want some redemption there. But then the whole middle of the tour, I haven't been on that since 2019. You know, Sonoma, Seattle, all those events. I'm looking forward to Richmond because it's on and off the schedule, and it's going to be a 2-day event. It's just going to be something that's different.
And the very last question, because you mentioned the Winter Nationals, I'm getting sick of hearing this. People always tell me, you know, Pomona has 2 dates. People don't really go out to the Winter Nats because the finals is at the very end of the season. As a drag racing historian who loves the history of the sport, can you please put this to rest? Why does NHRA deserve to have a Winter Nationals and have Pomona just have the 2 events that they have?
So what's the question about Pomona?
Like, people have been telling me, I've heard this from a couple
But you want me to justify them having 2 events at Pomona?
just having the Winter Nationals at all. Because people always tell me, just get rid of the event and just have the finals.
First off, I'm a traditionalist, but
Mhm.
tradition for the sake of tradition is stupid. Change for the sake of change is stupid. If you want to make something better, the heck with tradition. If you want to change something and it makes it better, I'm fine with that. It's awkward not having the first race of the year at Pomona. It just is awkward. The Winter Nationals, as they kick off to the season, and maybe they go back to that next year, but you have to have a Winter Nationals because we've done it since 1961.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Well, I know that they're going to rush you out to go do media tour stuff and go with everything else you got going on with Peak.
My hair and makeup is still good, right?
Well, I mean, we're just out there, and Erica's like having people go all over her hair, and you're just born.
She's a little better looking than me,
No,
yeah.
you're just born ready for it.
Right. I'm a 4.5 no matter what I do to fix myself. Well, thanks, Noah. Always good talking to you.
Yep. Good speaking to you too. Good luck this season.
Thank you guys. See you at the races.
You want to come up here?
He's talking to you. I've been kicked out of better places than this. That's
You might need to go.
I don't have
cut
to
it.
come here to get made fun of like that. Where do you normally go? Hey, Abby, tell your dad thank you. Elon,
folks. Producer Kevin here. So, if there is moments where the stream cuts back to kind of our loading video, just stick with us. We're working on, getting some drivers lined up here, so Noah can do his thing. And then there's a little bit of breaks. I'll be coming back in, but do stay on the stream. Don't tune away. It's not over. You didn't miss anything. There will be occasional moments where we do cut to the main screen. So just stick with us, and we will be back here in a few minutes.
Right, we found Aaron Stanfield waiting for his turn in the media tour room. Preseason's now over. You're about less than 24 hours from your first qualifying run. How did preseason go? How excited are you to be back out here for the start of the new year?
Preseason went well. It's good after a long season and enjoy some time with some family. I've got some young kids and a great wife that allows me to come out here and do this. So it's good to be able to kind of reset, spend some time with family, and get all the things we need to get done and get ready to get back out here. So it went great, and I'm ready to rock.
Speaking of family, you now have your dad to worry about on Sundays when you go racing in a pro stock. You had to race him, I believe, down in the factory stock showdown rinks, but now you're racing up here in the pro class. What's that like getting a chance to run up there with him?
I think it's something that's beyond our dreams. Like really it's a really cool opportunity. We're both very lucky, very blessed. There's not many people that get to say they got to race at this level with their dad. So I'm really looking forward to it. I know how talented he is as a driver, and I was a big uh, pusher of him to get back in the car because he just still has so much to offer to engine building and driving. So I'm excited for it, and I know he's gonna be good competition. He's gonna push me to do better, and I'm looking forward to it.
And you're building off of momentum. You had a really good run in 2024, had a close shot of winning the championship entering into Pomona, but sadly, I believe you fell down into that third spot. What changes have you guys made over the offseason to get ready coming in this year? Because now you're talking about a big four where you're representing two of the drivers in the KB versus the ongoing elite war. So what has that change been made to try and close that gap back up to prevent that 1 and 2 from happening again?
I think we're I think we're at the point where we're really really close, and I think we're going to keep chipping away at it, try to make our race car a little bit better, try to make myself a little bit better behind the wheel, whether that's mentally, physically, or just focus. So we're just going to keep making those small chips at it. We're really close, and I think we're going to be right back in the mix again this year.
One of the interesting things going into this year as well is the health of the class. A lot of drag racing purist fans will talk about how pro stock has declined in the last few years, but now you're in a season where you're going to have more full-time entries than positions on race day. How exciting is that to see the health of this class grow and grow and grow to the point where it's at now?
It is really exciting. I mean, we've got some old names coming back like my dad, and we got some new faces, and I think it's as healthy as it's been in a long time, and I could accredit that just everything's always changing, and I think Richard and Anderson, the Summit team, has figured out how to come together and make it to where it can be healthy again. So I think everybody's made great moves there.
While the championship didn't go your way at the end of last year, we talked about how strong of a season you had. Probably the highlight being that U.S. Nationals win. Looking back on it, just how much did that season mean to you, having those wins and having those wallies and those accolades now added to your name as being the first guy to double up at the U.S. Nationals?
Yeah, look, when you're in the moment, it's hard to kind of grasp what's going on. But looking back on it, it's a very special year, and yeah, we just we fell short of that storybook ending right there at the end, and but yeah, we show up to the racetrack to win, so it's always great to win, and we did a good bit of it last year, so it feels great to look back on it for sure.
You going through again with this KB Titan War versus Elite Motorsports, it's not so much sometimes becomes a heated rivalry. I believe you and Dallas were going at it towards the midway point of the season in the summer, but how much does that push you guys to better these cars to where you're at now, where it basically almost comes down to where if you have one bad reaction time, you're pretty much out of the race already.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's turned into a lot more of a driver's race for sure. Car performance is obviously still extremely important, but the racing's so tight right now. I mean, there was, a lot of races last year where I had that were, decided by less than a hundredth of a second, and that's really tight racing. So, yeah, I think Dallas, Greg, and the whole Cage bunch, I think they set the bar high last year, and we're ready to come back swinging.
One of the interesting things for this weekend as well is we're going to be coming into tomorrow looking at the weather. Hopefully, the rain holds up on Sunday, but the weather is not even going to touch 80 degrees. You're going to have a really cold racetrack on a track that even at 90 degrees is insanely fast. How excited does that make you getting to be able to actually put more horsepower into these race cars and push it to where it can no longer go?
It's always cool when you start getting close to the record zone, and I don't know if we're going to get quite enough good enough weather to see it, but I like going faster. The faster, the better.
So are you going to go more aggressive in the afternoon session, or are you going to try and peel it back and just save the motor?
I'm sure they'll have it set up pretty aggressive.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, man. Good luck this season. Hopefully, we see you get some more wallers at the end of the year.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
All right, it's rapid fire time, huh?
Yeah, you put this loading screen on. All right, so we're just live now.
Yeah,
All
we're
right.
going straight.
All right, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. We got Gage Tucker sitting over whenever he's ready to come in here.
All right, you're up.
Yes, and sure, that way I don't have it through.
Not much, man. How you doing, champ?
So good.
Saw you out there with that yellow Suzuki riding in the pits. You go out to Daytona for bike week at all?
No, I'm not. Got a busy schedule going on here. I mean, I'd love to go down there and hang out, just see the circus, I like to call it. But it's a good time down there. I've been down there. Last time I went down there was 3 years ago, and went to Supercross. And we hung out for a couple days, then we came up here. So it's a good time for sure, but just don't have the time right now.
You went through the off season. The big story is, the parity war between you, Matt Smith's racing, but also the Chase Van Sands. Where do you guys think that's at right now after how testing went in the last few days, and where do you think it's going to be come Friday for qualifying?
I think it's gonna be really tight. We all were kind of talking about. I think the top 10 is gonna be really tight. I think this is gonna be the tightest we're gonna see pro stock motorcycle in a long time. Matt ran really good. A lot of people ran really good. I mean, there's not all the teams tested. The last couple days, but teams tested at other tracks. And just hearing numbers, everyone's within like a couple hundreds right now, which is very good. I feel like everyone switching over to VP kind of opened the tuning window to where you make a change and you actually see the change happen. So I think it's helped a lot of people get back to the power they used to have. And it's gonna be tight, good racing. It's come down to the tree. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. I'd rather the bikes be really close and just come down to the rider.
You also talked about midway through the season last year as, the Chase Van Sands and the Matt Smith started to figure their combinations out to come after, like you said they would. How much more excited does that make you going into these races? Because it used to be, whether or not you just did your job and you pretty much had the race on lock. But now, especially coming into this year, these bikes are getting closer and closer. Now you're getting to the point now where you might not be number one qualifier heading into these races anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that actually excites me. you can never predict anything that happens, but I had a dominant season, my 2023 season, and I just had the fast bike. I mean, that's all there was to it at that time. But like last season, it got really tight towards the end there, or even in the middle of the season with between Matt and Chase. I mean, they would throw ones out there every once in a while. I just had to. I had a lot of lucky rounds last year that I was able to capitalize on, and that's what got me the championship. I feel, but yeah, I mean between all of them, I mean, it's going to be tight. I mean, Gianna ran really good testing. Angie, I mean, it's can't count anyone out, and that's what excites me is just there's so many different people out there that have a winning package. They just got to put it together.
You're going into this weekend, especially like we just talked about with every single driver that comes in here. We're going into qualifying and throughout the entire week, and it's not going to touch 80 degrees on a track that even in the hottest of conditions can still put down some pretty fast speeds and low ETs. How aggressive is that going to make you guys want to get, especially when you come out here on Friday night in front of a packed house and want to go set possibly some new ET records on the track?
Well, I'm sure Andrew's always going to have the bike on kill, and Ed's going to have Richards on kill. It's their nature. They want to go out there and show their horsepower. I mean, no different than Matt and them. I feel like everyone's gonna see probably high 60s, low 70s. I don't think we'll get close to the record. The weather probably. I don't think it'll be there, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of 60s, a lot of low 70s, and it's gonna be good for the fans and definitely over 200 miles an hour.
As you come into this season as well, one of the big storylines is going to be, especially in the countdown, that new four wide format at the Charlotte Carolina Nationals. You know, you as a bike rider, what do you feel about that as you head into the countdown now having a race where if you finish like just a tenth off of what your fastest speed is, you could not make it to the semifinals?
Yeah, I mean, I like the whole idea of the four wide in the countdown. I feel like it kind of switches it up. I mean, just like it does in the normal season, but to have it during the countdown, it's gonna be, it's almost gonna have the same amount of pressure as going to Pomona when you have points and a half. There's just so much more you could gain, you have so much more you could lose. So I feel like it's just gonna make everyone step up their game that much sooner and be on their A game the whole time. So I'm excited for it.
I kind of wanted to pick your brain on this. This is a bit of a question because I went down to Daytona on Tuesday. It was the first time I'd been there for Bike Week. Met up with some friends at one of the bars down there. I passed by Daytona and I see the midway that AMA has out there. And you see all these manufacturers and all these OEMs out there in Supercross, Motocross, AMA flat tracks, and Superbike racing, MotoGP. These OEMs are everywhere having factory backed entries in drag bike racing. Completely different story where you guys are really the only factory backed entries. What do you I know you're still somewhat new to the class, but what do you think can be done almost to want to change that to make this more appealing to some of these OEMs to say we need to go in here because this is kind of the last place that a lot of these OEMs just aren't out here participating in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like biggest thing is you got to get the right people from the OEMs out here. I feel like a lot of them. I mean, I know like in Suzuki, for instance, or no, it was Kawasaki. A lot of the head guys, kind of retired and went down to the younger crowd or their say younger siblings or whichever, and they don't know much about drag racing. I feel like drag racing is more of an older crowd, but we need to get the younger crowd out here. I mean, that's the hard part. There's just so much going on in the world around us. But I just feel like we need to get more people out here and get the right people involved. I mean, it'd be awesome to have Kawasaki, Yamaha, Honda, all of them out here. I mean, and it could be done. It's just, you got to have a body made. I mean, that's the big thing. Like our bike, mainly just the body is based off the Suzuki. And the motor's based off Suzuki, but now with it being all full built advanced science motor, it could be branded as anything, a Yamaha, Honda, whichever, because it's not actually a Suzuki motor. So
So you think it could just be more of like a spec motor series, like how we see kind of like in the IndyCar ranks and even like down in the truck series?
yeah, I mean, I feel like that could be possible. We just got to get the right people involved and push it forward.
You know, you speak to the trying to get the younger fans out here, it's a challenge just trying to get fans to want to get them to come stay here because I call it the mass exodus. I think it's one of the saddest things in drag racing is the fact that these fans don't stay out here. What's your message to them to just stick in the stands and watch these naturally aspirated engines go out there and just run naturally as they come off the streets?
Yeah, I mean, to the fans, I just feel like they need to come by in the pits and understand what's really going on with the bikes, even the pro stock cars. I mean, it takes a lot for the riders or drivers to get these motorcycles, these machines down the track, and I don't think a lot of fans realize that. There's a lot more that goes on. I know they don't shake and rumble you in the seat, which I mean, when I was a kid, I loved it, and I still do. I still love it now, the whole Nitro thing. But you know, I just feel like people don't really understand what all it takes to run the naturally aspirated programs to the performance that we do. And yeah, I just think they just need to look into it a little more.
One of the interesting things about you is, for being a factory-backed rider with Suzuki and Vance and Hines, most riders or racers in that's their full-time job, but you still do their construction work on the weekdays and able to do that regular 9 to 5. How much does that kind of help you put things into perspective to not let yourself get ahead? Because it's always been one of the stories that I like following with you is how you're not one of those guys that goes out there and just runs their mouths. You always stay this cool, calm, and collected, almost Iceman like status when you're out here running with these championships and having these accolades added to your name at such a quick level.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like me having a normal day job, I'm a pipe fitter, industrial welder up at steel mills in Indiana, Chicago area. I feel like it just grounds me, it keeps me, level minded. And it's pretty cool though at the same time. Like I was just at the mill on Monday quoting a job and walked up to the guy and he's like, "Are you really Gage Tucker?" I mean that right there is cool. It's a cool feeling doing that. And he's like, "I can't believe you still work and all that," but it just goes back to doing what I love, and I love doing all that at work and I love racing, but I would love to do this full time, but it just hasn't worked out for me, but being able to work and to do all that, it gets tiring. Don't get me wrong, all the traveling and all that, but like I said, I feel like it keeps my mind off of, say, the championship battle and all that. It just keeps me level headed, and I feel like that helps me a lot with when I come to the track. I'm just here to have fun, and I feel like that's the biggest thing that helps me.
Midway through the season as well, we're at Norwalk, you made that comment of Bob Task offering to put you in a funny car. So you've already knocked off about every accolade. I think the only track you haven't won at is Reading. That's the last
That's
one
correct.
left on the list. You know, what is there left for you to do in this class? Is there any check marks you have left? I know you're not, you've already told me that you're not going to go jumping into another class. You're going to stay on the motorcycle or maybe at most pro stock, but what is there left for you to want to do before you're able to even consider wanting to be able to walk away happy from this?
I mean, it just my goal is to get as many championships as possible, as many race wins as possible. But I never would have thought I would have two already in just two full seasons. So, I feel like I have a long, bright future here, in the class. But my goal is just to go out there and keep repeating it the most I can. But that all goes to my whole team, Vance and Hines and all those guys back at the shop. They do a lot of work, and I just get to showcase it for them. But my goal this year is still to keep Matt from getting seven championship, but we'll see what happens.
How much does the rivalry with Matt drive you? Because he's openly stated that the rivalry is more with Andrew than it is with you, but regardless, you're the guy he has to go after. How much does that kind of push you guys to keep moving this class forward as it has?
It definitely pushes us. As you said, like me and Matt, I would say we're very cordial. We BS, go back and forth. Like normal people. We don't have nothing against each other. It's just all friendly. Back and forth. But there's always a little rivalry. You're on separate teams. I mean, as soon as you go to the burnout box or whatever, you even when it's my teammate, you want to cut their head off, beat them. So, but yeah, I feel like, between the rivalry of them two, or us and Matt and them, it keeps the class going and moving forward. There's been a lot of technology and new development brought into this class because of the two teams, and I feel like, as long as they stay here, just gonna keep driving it forward and helping all the other guys. I mean, we got what two new people coming in this season. Brandon and Braden, and that's awesome. I feel like me coming out here, Richard coming out here, really drew the younger crowd to show them that anyone could do it. It's always been the same people for so long, and I feel like that's about to change.
Midway through the season, we saw all those entry lists where there was only 13 or 14 riders, and some people were quick to point to you as to blame for that, but you come in here, we almost had 19 bikes. I know Malcolm, I believe, had to back out. He announced yesterday that he wasn't able to make the trip down here, but first race, a lot of those guys that people said were turning away and selling their bikes off are now back out here racing. Where do you think the health of the class is now heading with how everything's been going over the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the class is actually growing. It's just growing at a slower pace than everyone expects. It takes money to be out here, and the travel. I mean, I say like, I run my own personal program and other sanctioned bodies, and the travel is the worst part of it all. It takes the most time, away from work, family, money. And it's just hard. I mean, but once people get out here and get their foot in the door, and then they get hooked in. I mean, it happens to almost all of them. I mean, and like you said, people are talking about selling their bikes and all that, and I feel like it was just a lot of talk more than anything. Trying to get rules to change more, but they're still out here, and based off testing, I mean, they're right there with us, so it should be good.
And I know you come into the season, what's the one thing that you're most excited about heading into this year that you're looking forward to, maybe on the calendar, or maybe trying to go after a personal record or an achievement to add to your name? Like, what's one of the things that you're maybe goal or something that you're excited about for this year?
My goal riding wise is I just want to lower my reaction time average. Last year I lowered it more than the year before, but I just want to continue lowering that as low as I can. Me and Chase always go back and forth, and now Richard's in there. So I mean, that's my overall goal as a rider, and to be consistent. Obviously I want to go for the championship again, but we'll see what happens. It's gonna be a tough field, but that's my personal goal, just to keep and try to be the machine that Andrew calls me.
You talked about Richard, coming into this class last year as a rookie. Now he's entering his sophomore season. By the end of the season, he really started to figure it out and was really starting to make some runs, put something together, and almost came close to getting that first national event win. In my opinion, should have won Rookie of the Year, but for other reasons, he
Yeah.
didn't. Where do you think he's at as a rider coming into this year? And, is that almost kind of a drive to help try to get him that first win on that bike? Because he won the Mission Foods in Norwalk last year, but you just know that win's right around the corner from happening.
Yeah, he's got all the confidence in the world. I mean, even after testing, he's like, I feel so comfortable, just even mentally, physically, and that's where it's all out. I feel like mainly if you're not there mentally or physically, it hurts you on the bike because we got to manhandle the bikes a little bit and finesse them, and you know, um, he had a little bit of a learning curve, but like when we tested, he looks like a totally different rider now. Even like you said, the middle of the last year, he just looks so comfortable, and that's what takes a lot for these bikes to go as fast as they do. And so he's gonna be hard to deal with this year. I feel. I mean, between us testing, I mean, we look at our graphs, you can't tell who's is who's. So I mean, he's right there. It's just it's gonna be fun. That's the main thing I'm looking forward to, and I know he is too. And it's gonna be a battle under our own tent, let alone all the other competitors.
You know, I guess almost last question. We talked about the weather here. You only look at the palm trees and the wind starting to sway. How much of a challenge is that going to be this weekend with the wind blowing? Because it's almost going like right across the racetrack into the lanes.
It's gonna be a challenge for sure. I mean, the crosswind, headwind, tailwind affects motorcycles more than anything. It's gonna we're gonna have to make some adjustments for it, but there's only so much you could do on the motorcycle. It comes down to the rider, basically being ahead of it, trying to, compensate for the wind. So I feel like that's gonna be the biggest challenge this weekend, depending on the wind. I haven't really looked at the weather to see what it's gonna do all weekend. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be windy all weekend, but I'm not sure exactly. But that's what uh that's what we battle. Chase Van Sant battled that in Denver or sorry, Dallas, and hurt his knee because of the wind. So, it plays a big factor on us, and it's comes down to the rider and trying to be ahead of it.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us. Good luck for the season. Hopefully, we get to see you turn on some more wind lights this year.
Yeah, thank you, man.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Protect your vehicle with Peak Original Equipment Technology. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
Well, when one Vance Hines rider leaves, another one comes in. We're now joined by sophomore rider Richard Gadson, coming back here to where it all started a year ago. How are you feeling after the offseason? How's preseason testing been going for you?
I feel a complete 180 degrees than what I felt last year. Last year there was a lot going on, a lot of butterflies, a lot of new team, and everything was so new. This year I'm a lot more relaxed, a lot more ready. Up for the challenge. Got some tough races under my belt last year, so I just feel war ready. I feel like I feel totally opposite than I felt last year.
You talked about going into that first season, having to get acclimated to riding a pro stock motorcycle, a whole different beast from, I believe, the no handlebar or no bar
No bar
situation that you had prior. By the midway point of the season, you really started to figure things out. I remember talking to riders like Chase Van Sant and others was like, Richard's starting to get this thing figured out. And by the end of the season, it was not a matter of if, but when that first Wally was coming around the corner. What was that process like of getting acclimated to riding that bike for yourself? And, where's that comfort level at now? Are you just going to come in here guns blazing to start off the year?
Yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully that's how it works out. We all left home with that same plan though, so we'll see. But yeah, I would say from Indy on, Indy I kind of started to hit my stride and um and started to feel like the physical riding of the motorcycle wasn't something I had to think about so much anymore. I always tell this story where last year I can't remember, I think it might have been Chicago. I made a mistake and Terry said to me, he says, "Well, that's because you got out of your routine." And I was like, "I don't have a routine. I'm figuring out my routine right now while I'm racing." My first pass on the bike was Q1. We came to test and we weren't able to. So, my situation is interesting because you all got to literally watch me figure it out. There was no testing. There weren't any passes that I made that you didn't watch.
Mhm.
So Indy started to be where I figured out that figured out what worked for me. And I raced. I feel like I raced as well as anybody in the countdown. As far as lights and everything like that. We just had we had a couple issues with the motorcycle, but again, I think we figured out all those things. And if I can carry on the riding that I was doing in the countdown and the bike runs how we are hoping it does, I think we can be a tough entry.
By the end of the year, you were really close in the running to get that Rookie of the Year contention. You came pretty much, I believe, single digit like votes away from winning that. What did that mean to you to have that much support from the people, not only in the media but in the paddock, saying that this is the guy who has topped everybody in terms of the rookie class? Because I remember when looking at the stats compared to Tony, who won, and no discredit to him, you had a Mission Foods win, and he wasn't able to get that, but still, he just came up just a tad bit short on that one.
Yeah, I never fooled myself. I knew from this before this even started that it would be a tough battle. Because I knew what Tony brought to the table, and I knew what he was capable of doing. So I would have had to have such an overwhelmingly huge performance advantage that to take it. But I was fun. I was happy to be a part of it. I would have liked to win. I would have liked the trophy. But just having everybody's support as far as some of the media members and the outreach that I've got from everybody, and even Tony himself after he won it in his acceptance speech, he mentioned me and the job that I did. So I'm okay with it, man. I'm at peace with it. I have fun being in the runnings for it, so I'll take that.
Elon was really nice to drop us here a question about bringing Big Brothers to the track in 2025. Tell us a little bit about that and how cool that is for you.
Yeah, so growing up, I was a part of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. It was a really pivotal part of my childhood. My mom got me in that program. I lost my father when I was 6 years old, and it was something that I'm an inner city youth from Philadelphia at the time. You know, he took me to air shows. He took me to national parks, things that my mom probably would have never gotten me to go to, and it expanded my horizons, and it was a positive influence in my life. And the program always meant something to me throughout my life. I still have contact with his name was Jason Peck. I still have contact with him to this day. So I promised myself when I decided that I wanted to race NHRA that if I ever actually achieved that goal, that I would pay it back and try to bring some of the bigs and littles out to the races. Show them something that they've never seen. One of the kids may latch on and want to be the next Richard Gadson or John Forrest or whatever, and he just may have doesn't know it exists. So because it means a lot to me, I wanted to do it. I did it last year in Maple Grove, just kind of under wraps. I didn't promote it. I just wanted to do it. And after Maple Grove, and after talking about it on the podcast, Elon Werner reached out to me and said, if you need help actually pulling that off, I'd be happy to help you. So we got 6 tracks to sign on: Charlotte, Maple Grove. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now. We got 6 tracks to sign on that we'll give out some tickets to bigs and littles, bring them out to the races, and just have fun with it. The kids can come over to the tent, see some cool motorcycles, and just have a day at the races.
One of the most interesting things about drag racing as a whole, especially here in the NHRA, is the amount of diversity that this series has. You look at sports like F1, IndyCar, NASCAR, they have to put their own diversity program in. But for a sport like NHRA, it's been almost ingrained into the foundation of the sport where, every single class you're going to have black riders, your Latino riders. What is that like for you growing up as a kid and seeing this? Because I know hearing from other black fans in racing, it really helped having those guys that you said, as they said, look like you, to be able
Yeah,
to look up to them as a fan.
because that's what you can relate to. When I was younger, it was Michael Phillips and it was Antron Brown. It was my uncle Ricky Gadson. Being able to feel like, and not just your skin color, not just your nationality, but even I don't know the exact term for it, but I would say a cultural background, somebody from the city that wasn't born into the financial situation or really just kind of had the situation fall in their lap where they can do this. To climb up the ladder and look at somebody that looks like you and that made it is inspiring to somebody. You never know the impact that might have on somebody. I know that it had, there were racers that did that for me. So hopefully I'm one of those figures for somebody else.
Talk about having that kind of upbringing to get into a sport like this, and now you're one of the factory riders for the top team in the entire class. What did that mean to you to have, Andrew Hines and Eddie Craywick put that kind of belief in you, and how does that help inspire you for other kids that may be coming out to the racetracks with you, trying to look up to you?
One Let me double back on
Yep,
those 6 tracks
I knew he was going to bring it over.
because I really do appreciate the fact that they were willing to do this because they
Mhm.
don't have to. So I want to get that right. So we got Charlotte, Chicago, Indy, St. Louis, Dallas, and Reading, and I kind of handpicked those events because I knew that they were close to the city. They were close to the demographic that I might be looking for to come out here in the Big Brother Big Sisters to have a chapter in those cities. So I just wanted to make sure I got that part right. But man, that the question about being a part of that team and what it means is a loaded deal because I still to this day don't know why they would pick me. Um, Eddie's knows me on a personal level. He's known me since I was a kid pretty much, and for him to believe in me and to have that faith their standards are high. They're a championship team. Everybody is an all-time great of some sort. So for them to pass that torch down to me and believe in me is humbling. I don't even I can't comprehend why they would, but I'm really happy to be in this position. You know, I always felt like I would race NHRA in some fashion. I never imagined that I would be a rider for Vance Hines Motorsports and work at Vance Hines Motorsports. And the cool part for me is Andrew said to me when they offered me the deal, he says, "You're going to be part of the big black trailer. You're going to be, you know, you're going to go from somebody that everybody likes to potentially somebody everybody hates. You're the villain team, and they're some of the most misunderstood people. I kind of feel bad for anything I may have ever said prior to being part of this team. There's some really misunderstood guys, and I'm having a blast, man. I really enjoy being with them. I enjoy the team. I enjoy Terry, Byron. I really, I owe all of those guys a lot more than just it's deeper than racing. This opportunity's helped change my life. So,
So, actually, I have a question from the chat here. You mentioned you were from Philadelphia. Are you an Eagles fan?
oh my God, I'm still on cloud nine. I watched the Super Bowl again on the airplane coming here. I think I watched it 3 or 4 times now. So. If they just ended the NFL now and I can go out on that high, I'd be happy. But yeah, I'm a huge Eagles fan, born and raised,
Mhm.
and I can't wait to see if they can do it again.
All 4 quarters must have been really fun for you.
Oh man, I was cloud nine. Cloud nine. I expected it to be a good game. I did not expect us to
Like
really.
that.
dominate those guys like that.
You
So
know, also this comes from Drag Racing Mayhem, another Pennsylvania native. I know he was going ballistic in the chat that we had with him when that was all going on. You know, another question I got to ask you, you know, what do you think of the halftime show as well? Because a lot of people were always skeptical about that. I remember talking to Dujanet. He was another guy in the chat was talking about your rookie numbers, like had the numbers and had the resume numbers don't lie. He was one of the big
yeah, he's been a
campaigners
huge
to
supporter.
help get you the Rookie of
Yep.
the Year candidate. You know, what would you think of the halftime show as well?
Man, I think that's I don't think that it's fair that people put so much on. I think, I'm sure there's a bad halftime show. I remember some really good ones. The Weekend was really good. There were some really good ones, but I think it was what I expected it to be. I knew most of the songs. Kendrick's one of the biggest stars out right now, and I thought that it was appropriate for him to perform, and I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah. And by the way, Dujanet again, very avid
What's up,
Commanders
Janae?
fan. Yeah, he's in the chat. He's active. Jane Daniels, they coming. And then of course Drag Racing Mayhem comes in with
Hey,
Go Birds. So there you go.
tell him whatever helps him sleep at night.
And then so going back to drag racing, you know, coming into the season, you know, you have those guys like Terry Vance. You have like legends, some of the top guys in the sport that are in your corner, help giving you advice. But you also have Eddie Krawick, who I have also heard is from a writer being a teammate from the Gage, from a writer to a crew chief and a mentor, very two different combinations. What's that like having someone like Eddie Krawick being the guy that has to yell at you when you get back to the trailer?
Eddie is Eddie, man. I'm a person that I appreciate somebody who calls it like it is. Um, Eddie calls it straight up and down, up, just like it is. If you if you're not looking for the truth, you probably want to avoid Eddie. So, he absolutely but he's huge though. He'll help anybody. He's been huge in this journey for me. Those moments where I'm really hard on myself about something, he'll kind of, hey man, you got to shake it off. You got to do it again here in a little bit, and you can't wear it. But one of the best virtues you can have in drag racing is a short memory, and he always reminds me of that. So, you know, all of the guys are really they know how this game goes. Every mistake that I made, they've made already. Every mind game that I've had, whatever, they know the whole game up and down. So they understand that you got to kind of stay even keel. You can't get too high on the highs. You can't get too low on the lows. But you definitely need to bring your thick skin if you're gonna, all those guys have been very successful. And then Gage came on and really did some special things. So it was a tough spot for me to come in and have to follow behind all of those guys. But man, like I always say, the win for me is even being here. So I know that the success as far as the Wiley's have come for me. Um, it's just a matter of time. I'll be ready when it comes.
You know, you talk about being with Vance and Hines and how much it meant to have them put that belief behind you, but you're also, you know, talking again, one of the most legendary groups in all of drag racing. You know, talk about names: Dave Schultz, Terry Vance, Andrew Hines, Eddie Krawick, Angel Sampay, some of the biggest names in the entire class. Now your name is going to be on that resume with those guys. What does that mean to you just to be able to say you are a Vance and Hines rider?
If I ever uh, I'm big on not taking it for granted for sure. But if I ever just forget or get complacent, when I realize what it means to my family, to my mom, to my grandma, the people who sacrificed everything to keep me at the racetrack, and living this dream, it brings it all back in focus for me. It's like, dang, this is huge to everybody around me. My friends, and I won't call them fans, my peers. Um, that from my other racing organizations, and just seeing what it means to everybody is what really keeps it all in perspective for me. So, you can it's easy to get lost in the racing. It's easy to come here and get lost in whether you're doing good or whether you're doing bad, and that dictating how you feel about what you're doing here. And I try to make sure that I don't let that happen, because the big picture is me coming from where I come from, everything I've been through, everything I had to do to get here, how long it took me to get here. That's the big picture. So, I try to remind myself of these things. People asked me last year, and they're like, "Oh, are you disappointed, that you're not doing as good as Gage, or that you didn't win a race, or that you didn't get first or second in points?" And I'm like, who am I to I finished third in NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycle. I ride for Vance and Hines. What exactly is there to not be happy about? So I try to keep things in perspective, man. You still get disappointed at times, but it's just you just got to remember some of these things.
You talk about finishing third. That means you were inclined to have the number 3 on the bike, but you still chose 23. Was that a Michael Jordan thing? What's the story behind keeping
No,
that number?
no, people think that it's funny, and it has multiple layers. The 23 could mean a lot of things. My nickname prior to I'm Richard Gadson the fifth, so my nickname is RG5. That's what everybody calls me. So most people thought the 23 was because I couldn't wear five, so 2-3 is five. The 23 actually only stands for Gage wore 79 his first year with Vance and Hines. That's the first year that Terry but that's when they opened Vance and Hines Motorsports or Vance and Hines. 2023 is when Terry bought Vance and Hines back.
Oh,
So Terry actually picked 79 for him. He picked 23 for me. And 23 just happens to be a cool number. It's way cooler than 79. So when I didn't win the championship or I didn't win Rookie of the Year, we have our number on our leathers. And I would have had to get a new suit. We would have had to do a lot of things. And 23 is a cool enough number. I just said, you know what? I'll just stick with number 23. It doesn't change that I actually finished third. So I'll wear my earned number next time, maybe.
talk about when, not if, but when that first national event when comes, how long is that celebration tour going to be for you?
Dude, I don't know. I think about that a lot. That's one thing I do think about is what will it be when I win one? Like, what will I feel like? Will I cry? Will
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm not a very emotional, outwardly guy, but I have no idea what I'm gonna be like in that moment because that is something that I actually never thought I'd have. I've seen people even in bracket racing. I'm like, oh man, they actually own a Wally. A few of my friends have Wallies. My uncle is as successful as he's been in drag racing, doesn't have a Wally. So I'm like, the first one I'm gonna give to my daughter. The first one's gonna be it's going in her room.
Now then, I'm glad that you asked that question when you did because it's right at the 2 hour mark of the stream. So I'm going to clip that and we're going to use this later in the season and see how you actually react
Yeah,
once you
let's
get
do
one.
it. Yeah, let's do it. Hopefully I'm not like boohoo crying or something like that.
Well, you're gonna get looking forward to the shower because I know when Gage won it, Mike Salinas openly was boasting in the media. So I was like, I drowned that kid. But it's been fun watching you grow as a rider. It's been
Thank
a lot of fun getting to see how you've grown as a person and competing in this class. And I know when that first win happens, I think everybody in this media center is going to be calling it a feel good story and is going to be really happy to see it happen.
uh,
I cannot wait for that moment to come.
just knowing that, man, that means a lot. I know a lot of people are rooting for me. I know a lot of people are waiting, holding their breath. You know, Maple Grove is the one that got away. You're not entitled to a win out here. That's why I try to tell people, you're not entitled to it. We all left home and came here to win. So it's not like I have to get one because I want one. Maple Grove is the only one, and I'm like, you know what? I should have won that one. It was hometown race for me, and I got all the way to the finals. And last year, I couldn't really run with Matt and Gage, best pass, but I didn't have Matt or Gage. I'm like, all right, I can handle Hector Jr. And that's what I get for thinking. So, I appreciate everybody's support. I know everybody's holding their breath for it, and so am I. But in order for me to do what I do, I have to an extent not care. And I'll celebrate when it had. Trust me, I'll make up for it when I get it.
You mentioned, Hector Ryan Jr., not worrying about him, and then he comes out and knocks you out. But, I asked Gage this because in his scenario, he's been dominating the class for the last 2 years,
Yeah,
and he's excited about this because now he actually has. Don't want to downplay it, but he has guys that he can no longer look at as saying
yeah.
this is an easier win. What is your feeling about this? Because we talk about Matt Smith, Angie
Yeah.
Smith, John Hall, and all these guys, but you also got to look right down the Wild Gator Racing. Chase Van Sant's one of those guys that's really knocking on that door, ready to go out.
You telling me?
Yeah, he won it. Yeah, he won the race already. What do you feel about this? Seeing that this class, Steve Johnson, one of the other guys that everyone's looking at, is when that's finally going to turn around for that program after how he started last year. What's your feelings on this? Seeing how this class has grown and really started to pick up the pace naturally on its own without needing the interference from the NHRA to enforce it to make it like that.
Well, you know what, man? That's a thing, and I'm glad you asked that because one of the misconceptions about our team is that we just want to dominate. I mean, of course, everybody wants to dominate, but we want tight racing. We want the class to survive. We want other people that feel like they have an opportunity to win. And one thing that stuck out to me last year, Andrew Hines, at the end of the year when Gage won the championship, Andrew said, he says, well, the first year we had a performance advantage. we wanted to win it fair and square, which was last year. And to hear him say that was like, okay, well, he admits and knows, and Gage is the same way. Gage is like, man, I'm glad everybody's catching up. They don't want it to be a landslide because it's always going to have an asterisk next to it, like, oh yeah, he won the championship, but he was 500s faster than the next closest person. Nobody wants that. So and it keeps you on your toes. He's like me. He's very competitive. Last year, I'll tell a quick story. Last year, I red lit against Matt. I had two red lights last year. But one of them was in the finals against Charlotte against Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of people reach out and they said, you gotta lay up and you gotta do and we're not taught that. I might have qualified number one once or twice or three times in my whole career. I've always been a guy that kind of went against the grain. If there was a common, easy combination in the class, I did the polar opposite of everybody. And I've always had to make something happen. And that's how I've always raced. Being a part of this team and learning that, we have motorcycles that can get the job done for you. Just be consistent, and that's something that I had to learn. I'm used to being aggressive, and the same deal with Gage. The first year as long as he was green, he was pretty much going to win. Last year, that wasn't the case. He had to race. He had to cut some good lights. He had to earn them, and that's how we like it. That's how we want it, and I think that this year will be the toughest. I don't think anybody's winning 11 races this year. I don't think that's going to happen. So and we got a lot of new guys in the class. We got Braden Davis, we got Brandon Litton. These kids are kids that I know outside of NHRA, and if they have a motorcycle, they are going to be tough to beat to that finish line. And Gage knows it, I know it, and everybody else better know it. So it's going to be an interesting year. I think you'll see something different than what you've seen the last 2 years this year, and we're ready for it.
All right, man. Well, this has been a really fun conversation. It's been a pleasure to get to talk to you.
Yep.
Good luck this season. I can't wait to see you up here when you
Thank
get
you.
that first one.
I appreciate you guys having me.
All right, I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, man.
All right, we'll take a quick break and then we'll recap. And I think we got Buddy Hull on deck ready to come up here.
Formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
Right now, we're joined here with now two-time Jim Dunn racing driver Buddy Hall back here for his sophomore season with the team. You coming back in here after what was a bit of a rough end to the year for you. I remember being at PRI. You talked about wanting to talk about the headers.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you talking with the NHRA Tech people at PRI. What was that conversation all about?
Well, it was a tough way to end the year. No one wants to end the year with the DQ, right? So all winter long, I had to stew over the fact that I didn't get to finish my season by taking a fair and square, beat in first round or second round or whatever it was. So And it motivated us. Believe me, that motivated us all winter long to come out swinging this year. So the team's ready. I'm ready, and um, yeah, I think it's all good. I think the NHRA tech group and I have found amends. I think we're okay now. I think we'll be all right. I don't think they're going to beat me up anymore.
Well, you're gonna think they're gonna take your blocks like they did Tasco?
So I don't think so. I think we'll be all right.
You know, one of the things about your team, you talked about that firing you up for the offseason, wanting to get some things turned around.
Yeah.
The story with Jim Dunn Racing, and this isn't so much a dig at the team, but you being one of those underfunded teams, when people put up their drag race back bonanza picks, those are one of the guys you talked about glancing
Yeah.
over as a first round loss. What are some of those changes that you guys have made to try and bring this up there as a team that some people are now going to be able to say that's one of those sleeper picks that you got to watch out for at those races?
So I think I don't think I know. We are going in a direction that we're looking at being consistently a 95 to a four flat car. We got a refresh car coming. It's everything but a brand new car, new front half, new plumbing, new wiring, new 10 work, new everything. So there's not much left of the old car, if you will. So it's a brand new car. And then we bought more new parts over the winter, and we're planning on to lean on the car a little bit more this year. Last year, we didn't hurt any parts at all. We went an entire season, and knock on wood, we really didn't hurt a thing. So, to get more aggressive this year in our tune up and then just do a better job. That's what we're going to do. It's not if, it's just it's going to happen. So,
You know, there is this thing about funny carts going on right now, and you're one of the guys that has done this. Like yesterday in testing, Will Smith was driving a Paul Smith car. Julian Atas was driving the Worsham car. You're one of those also one of those guys that made that jump from Top Fuel to funny car.
yeah.
What does that say about the health of this class now? That a lot of these guys look at Top Fuel, and I remember talking to Will, and he said, oh, there's more drivers than cars, so they're coming down here where it's easier to find a ride. What does that speak kind of the health of the class? And now more guys like, we need to get in these floppers and drive this thing.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. First of all, say that they are two different animals.
Oh,
Top
yeah.
Fuel Dragster and Nitro Funny Car are not the same car at all. One could say, same motor, same clutch, but outside of that, they're nothing alike. The way you tune it, the way you drive it, the way you care for it, everything about it's different. So, I think different strokes, different folks, and I think there are some drivers who do better in a top fuel car than a funny car. And I think some drivers do better in a funny car than a top fuel car. So, I it's like this. I think you should always work to your strengths in life. I'm not saying avoid your weaknesses and not improve on them, but work to your strengths. So whatever car you fit in the best is the one that you need to drive. So for me, it's a nitro funny car. My first race car was a fuel altered. All right, so that's a funny car without the body on it, right? So I grew up in drag racing with the engine in front of me. So that's what I was used to. I mean, I made over 1,000 runs in a blown alcohol, fuel altered. So that's what I cut my teeth in. So for me to get back to that just made all the sense in the world. As a matter of fact, I kind of ended up in a top fuel car just by chance. It just happened. Like it just worked that way. And that's how life goes. But I think opportunities equal in both classes. I wouldn't say that there's one that has more uh, of a desire or need than the other one. They're both. We need more cars in both classes, and we need more guys who want to go out there and roll the dice and buy the equipment and bring them up to the racetrack. It's easier said than done. I'll tell you that.
You being one of those teams with Jim Dunn Racing, one of the things I'm talking about with a lot of drivers is the way this track's going to be tomorrow.
Yep.
Usually this track on any given race weekend that we come here, 90 degrees, you can still run like high 338s, low 37s. In your position, you're not one of those guys that can just on the flip of a hat go, okay, let's go out there and see how fast we can really get this thing going,
Yeah.
having to conserve that part. What is that balancing act like for you guys to want to be able to say, let's go out there and see what this thing can really
Yeah.
do, but let's not waste an entire
Yeah.
motor and qualify?
So we race very smart, and we race in a fashion that we don't use our parts as experiments, right? We don't do that. So there are moments in time where especially this year, we're going to tune it up, right? We're gonna lean on a little bit harder than what we have in the past. But you're right. We don't have the budget for that, right? We are well funded. We're a well funded team, but we don't have the budget to go out there and try things.
Yeah.
We just don't do that. But we have the best parts money can buy. We have a brand new supercharger program over there. We have great heads. We keep everything fresh. We have one of the best maintained fuel funny cars out here. It's always spotlessly clean. I mean, it's got all the best parts on it. We just don't run our cars hard.
You know, one of the checklists you talk about, your goal is to kind of keep it in that 395 full flat range.
Yeah.
What are some of those checklists, the things you want to accomplish this season to where you're able to say, this is a good building block going in the next season to try and build it up to that program where you're able to go out here and run with the big guys and try and take these national event wins?
Yeah, I think, solidifying ourselves as a team, or better yet, putting a stamp on it would mean a top 10 finish in the points and win it some rounds. I'd like to see our car, go 15 to 25 rounds this year and be a top 10 race car. I know we get the parts to do it. I know I can keep the car in the groove and get it on the track. So it's just a matter of the world's coming together and stars aligning and us getting some win lights.
You're talking about your history driving an A fuel car,
Yeah.
having the background to be ready to drive this, but jumping from the top fuel dragster into a funny car. Last year, the story is also kind of getting acclimated into a funny car, getting used to driving that. Where is that comfort level at now heading into this season? It is now just a point of making sure you hit the tree right, making sure the car is able to actually get down the track.
So, I believe I'm doing this a long time,
Mhm.
and I believe that I'm wired to do it. I want to do it real bad. And so I'm always psychologically prepared, right? I can't wait to my next run. I can't wait till the next amber light flashes. So I'm always ready. Last year, of course, learning curve, but I was comfortable in the car. Like there was never a moment where I wasn't comfortable. I spent all those years driving other things with the engine in front of me. So there was never a moment where I was like, oh man, this is dicey, or never once did I feel that way. But on the flip side is, to be a student of the car is important. So when you first start driving a big show fuel funny car, there is a learning curve for even the most experienced drivers in other categories, and that's what I went through.
One of the interesting things about you guys as well is the amount of high level sponsors you guys have in the car. Like, I know Dujane mentioned you're raining out here with the Moon Eyes gear this weekend. You also had Blaze Exhaust, you had the Menard sponsorship at Chicago and other races like that. What's the process like of in this day and age in motorsports selling these sponsors to these guys to want to be able to come out here and support you and fund you for these events?
We got to show them value. They got to see value in what we do. They got to see that. They got to like our team. They got to love our team. They got to like their driver. They got to like everything about what we're doing because there's so many marketing choices these days, right? There's so many ways that large companies can spend their money to get their name out there. So we do our best to make sure we're the obvious choice.
One of the interesting things too is in the news for the season is now there's a third four wide race. Most drivers will argue about not wanting it because of the fact of how more ingenuine it might be.
Yeah.
But for you guys, it's kind of like how NASCAR is with the plate races, where it's a big equalizer for you guys to be able to go out there and get more win lights turned on.
Yeah.
What is your feeling about this heading into this new year?
Well, it takes one round less to win a drag race, to win the whole race. So that's an advantage. And then you're racing, three cars instead of one car. So there is a clear advantage. So I don't mind. This staging is a bit of a debacle. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. But in the end, it's just if you're a pro, you're supposed to be able to adapt. If you're a professional race car driver, you should be able to go up there, understand how to look at the tree, take a tree, and get down the racetrack.
All right, man. Thank you so much for sitting down here and talking to us. Looking forward to seeing what you guys will be able to do this year.
Thank you all. Thank you guys. Stay tuned. There's more to come from this guy.
Protect your vehicle with peak original equipment technology. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
guy we're joined here with Pro Stocks. How do we say this? Not newest driver, because it's not a rookie year for you. It's return back to where you came from. Drake Stanfield, new year, new car, running with Elite. How you feeling coming this new year?
Well, I feel pretty good. I'm kind of the new old driver.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good. Actually, really excited about being able to race with Aaron this year,
Mhm.
full time in pro stock, and very humbled and honored to be able to race with him and Elite and all the people helping us behind the scenes.
You had the shot out of Pure Shoot in Bradenton to go out there and run that car and kind of knock the cobwebs off. What was it like getting back into pro stock? How much of a difference is it now compared to what it was when you last raced this thing?
It's quite a bit different. With the fuel injection, we had carburetors when I raced back in
Hmm.
the day, had hood scoops, so that's a little different. The engines accelerate way faster, seems like now, and the driving part of it, that part of the game is elevated a lot, compared to when I raced. So back when I raced, it was more performance, but now everybody's so close. The driving game is really elevated. So got a little work to do, but we're ready.
You ran the Factory X car last year, did really well in that car, and now you're coming here to pro stock. How is that similarity like between those two cars? Because I know a lot of people have been pointing out that maybe that's the future for pro stock. What do you think about that?
I don't know if it's a future of pro stock. I like the Factor X cars. I like going faster though, so
Yeah.
that was kind of that was an easy sell for me to get back in a pro stock car. But I think the Factor X has a lot of potential. Needs a little work to get the class to prosper, but I'm happy running pro stock 100%.
It was kind of a big surprise when the news came out that you're going to be driving that pro stock car. People talk about it's been 20 years since you sat behind the wheel of a pro stock car. What was that conversation like to how to get that started of you being in this car and what was the drive to want to go out there and do it after this long?
It was Aaron, pretty much. I'd say Aaron was pushing for it. It hasn't been quite 20 years, but and I was okay watching. Aaron's done a great job driving, and supporting him has been really fun. And a seat opened up at Elite, and everybody kind of pushed for me coming over there and racing. So just excited, really excited to be able to do it.
What does it now mean to get to run with your son Aaron? Because I talked to Aaron earlier, and he was like, really boasting about how much it means to get to race you now and have that chance to race with you on Sundays. What's it mean to you to have the chance to race with him?
I think it's the competition, like, back when he was in childhood, we played ping pong or whatever, basketball, whatever it was we were playing. So that competition's really, really hard between me and him. So we'll be able to bring it to the racetrack and go at it head to head.
You know, kind of going back to the drive behind wanting to return to the class, Jack Coughlin came back last year full time. Saw Dave Connolly come back in the shootout. A lot of you guys that have retired or walked away are now starting to make your faces known again and come back into this class. I mean, Jason Lyons now running down in the Hemi Challenge with I just know the name off the top of my head, running fish stick. But what is it with you guys now wanting to come back here? Is it just the bait that Pro Stock has
The
just too
competition,
enticing?
just drag racers. If you're a drag racer, it's in your blood. So if the opportunity is there, you jump on it. So I have an opportunity and I'm going to jump all over it.
How much different is that class? We talked about the difference of the
Yeah.
car itself. You look at the class now where, we're talking about 16, almost 17 full-time cars, and they're all these really highly
Yes.
competitive
Yes.
cars. What's that like coming into the season and just looking up and down the trailers like that guy can do it, that guy can do it, that guy can do it.
I think if you qualify, you can win.
Hmm.
At this point in the game, I like competition, so I'm very competitive. Just want the opportunity and thankful that I have it, and see if we can make something of it.
What's also like working with Elite Motorsports because, back in like the 90s and early 2000s, it was like about 15 cars sharing one engine, but now it's like
Right.
one team with over half the grid.
Superpowers.
Yeah, what's it like having being a super team like that?
It's good. I mean, it's different role for me because in the past I was the one building the engines, or was kind of controlling all of it, and over there they've got a great group of guys put together, great team. So it's just cool for me to watch all the young guys working in their passion for racing. Um, I'm just a small part of it, and lucky the lucky one who gets to drive. So
One of the things you could look forward to as well is, you have the four whites coming. You got three of them to look forward to. You also get to look forward to running the Mission 2 Fast 60 Challenge if you make the semifinals, but also you have a call out to look forward to. What are some of those things in this new year that gets you excited? As like, I want my name a part of that.
all of it, all of it, any of it, and all of it. Just want to do my job right and turn when lights on.
You know, is it a bit more of a drive that if you end up on the same ladder as Aaron, is it more of a
I
thing
don't
of
want to
like
race
you
Aaron,
don't want to race Aaron?
but if I do, we'll have to make sure the tank is extra full so we can go at him.
You know, what's one of the tracks that you're most looking forward to going to go back to as
I,
a pro
I
racer?
like Bristol. Yeah, Bristol's one of my favorites. So in all of them. Just it's different for me now because I can relax, have some fun, and hang out and race with Aaron.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you getting to talk to you. Good luck this season.
Thank you. All right.
Protect your vehicle with Peak Original Equipment Technology. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
right now we're joined with our friend of the channel, owner of Competition Plus, Bobby Bennett. Came off 25 years, now entering year 26. How does it feel coming into the new year, now getting to start season?
Well, people think that 25 years, that's as long as I've been doing this. I had 20 years before that working in the printed industry and just basically writing for different magazines about Fort I love.
You've been like you said, you've been doing the sport for a long time. Going into this year, after how well the season ended last year, where's the anticipation level at for you? Because you've seen a lot in the sport, it just seems that now with this championship, with the way these classes are running, it just keeps getting better every year.
Well, I'm going to say this, and this is not a popular opinion, but it's my opinion. I think drag racing fans have never had it so good. Right now, everybody clamors for the good old days, but if they really knew behind the scenes how the good old days were, they weren't really all that great. I mean, think about it. We used to have to wait for National Dragster to come out a week later to see when it was going to be broadcast on television. Of course, the broadcasts were the greatest ever because you never saw any. Now you've got drag racing at the click of a mouse everywhere you want it. And the quality level is so high now. I'm not taking a thing away from Diamond P, but imagine yourself on an island, and if you haven't eaten in a week and you get a sandwich, it's going to be the greatest sandwich you ever ate. Well, that's the way drag racing coverage was now. You've got so many opportunities to read and watch drag racing that, yeah, this is the golden era of drag racing.
you know, Heading into the season, there's so many storylines that are going to be following throughout the year. One of the things Coletta yesterday in the test sessions, they put down some really fast times. Brittany Force really starting to make his way back in, but also kind of the future of the sport with what Antron Brown and Ron Capps do. I know you wrote a story about the future with them with Angel Sampay and Julie Natus and Maddie Gordon. Where do you think this sport's going to go, especially now that we have Tony Schumacher racing for Rick Ware of all people? Like more and more teams are now finding the funding to go put the second car together all of a sudden.
Again, drag racing is on an upward trajectory, and it doesn't matter. NHRA may not be your thing. Small tire may be your thing. Pro mod may be your thing. I mean, we just had a 3 race series with nothing but pro mods, 80 pro mods. Okay, back. I hate to say this term, back in my day, and when we could tell a pro mod was running because we could stand behind it and see both doors from the back. That's what pro mod was, but it became refined and it's sort of like a pro stock style of class because you got really good drivers, you got really good equipment and all. So, I think it's getting better and better and it's going to keep continuing to go upward and upward.
We see looking top fuel, the trajectory going up. There's about what, 12, 13 full-time guys that could win every week, and now you have 3 part-time guys coming in. You're in a full field of guys that could win. Funny car, more top fuel drivers are starting to make the switch now, and that class is starting to find some health. Pro stock, you're gonna have bumping almost every event. Pro stock motorcycles projection. What are like some of these guys that you're kind of looking at to maybe have some investment in their stock to see how they're going to improve this year? Because there are a lot of guys like the TJ Zizzos and the Richard Gatsons that can really turn some heads this year and surprising people.
You're going to see the advent of the super part timer. More of those like, TJ Zizzo was coined the super part timer. The teams that are going to come right out here and have their act together. They're going to make the most of their budget. They're going to buy good parts, run a limited schedule, and they're always going to be a threat to win. And that's one of the great things about drag racing. It's not like those days in the 1970s when wrestling was real. You guys wouldn't know anything about that, but when you'd have the superstars and then you had some guy that was working at the Kroger last week wrestling him that he knew he had no chance to win. Well, now the guy that worked at Kroger could take down the U.S. heavyweight champion and stuff like that. And that's something that I see that's good. And pretty soon, more things are rumbling. There's going to be more places for these Nitro guys to race and more pro mod. I mean, you can't go wrong having more drivers.
You're
Can
talking.
you?
No, you cannot. I mean, you just talked about it. More places for these nice races to go. IHRA. really kind of the big storyline about what's going to happen with that. You just wrote the story about the President's Cup Nationals coming back to Maryland Dragway. You know, where do you kind of see that going? Because, when we first started at PRI, there was a lot of talks and they made a lot of promises, and now it's kind of dwindled down. But now you're starting to see some of these more historic events come back. Do you really think that those Nitro guys are going to be able to go back there and race at these tracks again?
The number one thing that I hope doesn't happen is a war or rivalry get rekindled that was basically a feud between two guys who are not even alive anymore. You know, and we look at IHRA was maybe they weren't on the grand stage that the NHRA was, but they had a lot of good innovative ideas. Mountain Motor Pro Stock, Top Sportsman, which was a derivative of the old AHRA's Top Comp Eliminator, which is a run what you brung dial in 32 car class, and the Mountain Motor Pro stocks, which back in the days, probably before you were even in your dad, were pounds per cubic inch. Like the Fords ran 9 pounds per cubic inch for a certain engine combination and so on, and then they went to 500, which was basically a spin-off of the IHRA's Mountain Motor class. Now I hope that they both work. Look, there's always going to be some kind of a rivalry, but I hope it's not so mean spirited that it hurts drag racing. They can benefit off of being strong. Drag racing benefits, the fans benefit. I mean, think about it. The people in Maryland, now they'll get to go watch fuel cars, mountain motor, pro stocks, and pro mods. And that's what we need to do. I mean, that was a fight that got nasty, that shouldn't have. Well, it probably got nasty, but it should have been gone a long time ago.
And you talk about the fact Maryland Dragway having the World Cup finals already. Now you have a second marquee event being added to that list. You're seeing a lot of these more independent tracks. I know, like one of the big stories was the amount of tracks jumping into the NHRA divisional calendar with this new idea, like the Peach State Showcase that they're going on in South Georgia Motorsports Park. It's going to open a lot of doors for some of these smaller venues to have opportunities to see the big show cars run at their venues. Where do you kind of see maybe this going here in the next couple of years? What NHRA is looking to do to kind of grow this sport out to more audiences across the country?
I see more opportunities for people who wouldn't normally be able to travel hours to go watch a national drag race, getting a drag race in their backyard. That's what's important. That's what's key. You can never go wrong exposing more of this sport to its fans. I mean, think about it. I mean, more chances that you get to see your home run hitters hit a home run in your local Duncan Park or whatever. That's going to be killer, man. I mean, I can't, you know, if you listen to people on social media, God, drag racing is deader than a door now. And I'm like, when's the last time you went to a race? Oh, the stands are empty. That's because you got 12 people standing on the fence line. Plus, the grandstands are 3 times larger than they were in the 70s. Okay? Let's be realistic about it. And who wants to really sit elbow to elbow with a guy with no shirt on wearing a hair sweater or whatever? You know? It's just like, go to the races, see it for yourself. Because I guarantee you, if they had to walk through a lot of these races that didn't have the grandstands full and have to wade through the pits to get to the drivers to get interviews, they'd have a different thought process. Not everybody sits in the stands when they come to a race.
It's like the same thing you talked about. I remember being at the U.S. Nationals last year and talking to some of the people from the NHRA, and they talked about, ticket sales increase for the weekend. You look in the grandstands, IRP renovated their grandstands and made them stadium size where it's the largest venue, so it doesn't look like it. But you walk through the pits and it's shoulder to shoulder to shoulder, almost impossible to walk through there. They are packing that place, and it gets bigger and bigger every year for these events, especially here. You know, this sport just keeps seeming to grow. More people, especially with how NHRA has grown from 2020 onward. What has it been like seeing from your perspective, being in the sport for a while, seeing Rose in that low point in the low 2018s to where now we're seeing these fans come out here in droves, especially at tracks like Gainesville, where we know they can sell this place out.
Oh yeah, I mean it's great when you're in something that you poured your whole heart into. For me, I missed 2 kids growing up. Almost got killed by COVID. and had a heart attack. All these kind of things. And this is what I poured my heart into. How can you not get excited when it's doing better? And feeling like you have a little sliver of investment into that getting better because you get people excited about drag racing. Again, people that are, if you listen to what you know, believe what you read on social media, you swear that this sport is dying a death. Terrible. And last year I had to get here so early before the gates even opened so I wouldn't get stuck in bumper to bumper traffic. Yeah, the sport's dying.
Yeah, I mean, last year we had to leave like at the
5 in the
first
morning.
light of day. And then I wanted to point something else out kind of about this topic. Um, with a lot or some other series, some of the venues that the series themselves own, they're having to tear down grandstands and pack everybody in to get that thing of look how many people we have here. You don't see that in drag racing.
Yeah, but how many people are watching on TV, watching the NHRA.TV broadcast, all this? I mean, it's just, look, we're not NASCAR. We don't claim to be NASCAR, and that's fine, okay? I would rather have a kidney stone than watch a NASCAR race, okay? And I'm just telling you that you can choose to wake up in the morning and see all the doom and gloom of the day, or you can wake up and thank good Lord above that you got another day to live and look at what's positive in here. And the positive is you don't have to look in a publication to see when your drag racing coverage is going to come on syndication. You've got live streaming, you've got YouTube. And if you want to go back and look at the good old days, you can always go to Competition Plus TV and look at the 1974 Spring Nationals if you want. If that's what you love about drag racing, then you love it. And you love it with all your heart. But don't tell me the sport's dying because it's not put in the box that you want it in.
One of the fun things to watch over the last few weeks with the start of the IndyCar season was their claim being the fastest motorsport on earth. NHRA taking a lot of shots over the bow at him, and I've seen the fans' reaction. I don't think I've seen your take on that yet. What was your whole thought seeing what Fox was doing with that?
I'm a Chippendales dancer. Do you believe me? No, no, and that's just ignorant. It's just ignorant because I guarantee you put one of them in one of these top fuel cars. Uh, Maybe today it might not be as hard as it was back in the 80s or 90s, but I guarantee you there's a lot more than going straight than people think. I mean, you got to concern yourself with traction. You got to concern yourself with dropping cylinders and the car trying to keep it within that. Forget it. They can tell themselves whatever they want to, but they're kidding themselves. Okay, and I challenge any one of them. Come out here, sit here, because I guarantee you're not going to sit stand there on the starting line and not have your insides wrapped. Will one of those cars do it? Maybe when you're going 200 miles an hour, but not when you're watching them leave.
Well, also the fact they got to turn up what is it, the boost pressure in
Yeah.
order to make those speeds?
Whatever, dude. You know what? You can say whatever you want to. Like I said, I can say I'm the president of the United States. Does that make it right? No, it doesn't make it right. But the thing that they'll discover one of these days is when they come out here, they'll like, man, we told the most massive lie since the Vietnam War.
End this off.
And another little tidbit. Before you guys were born or in your parents, drag racing had a firm hold on the 18 to 24-year-old demographic. And what little thing happened, not little thing, but what happened from 65 to 71, 72, the Vietnam War, which took out about 80% of that demographic. And it never recovered from that. That's when you saw drag racing on old TV sitcoms. You saw it on all kinds of different shows because it was mainstream. Oh yeah, those long cars with the parachute that come out. Yeah, it was like that. But when you had over what $750,000 young men that were affected. You come back from that. Do you think the last place you want to be at is around a car that sounds like a bomb going off? No. You wonder how many ever come back. And if I went to the Vietnam Veterans Wall, and I saw a '55 Chevy down in the little thing on a panel of the wall, and that told me what I needed to see. That's real. That's real stuff, real life. Yeah. And I guarantee you, if they want to talk about no, these people, the NASCAR and all these other groups, they didn't overtake that market. We lost it because of a worldwide thing. And drag racing, just because it's different when you did it in the 60s, doesn't mean it isn't really, really cool. Just different.
And one of the things I got to experience ever since starting this is, I have a lot of friends that are photographers that don't really have many opportunities to come out here, and I'll bring them out here to help them get their portfolio. Each time I brought them out here, they come back to me. It's like, I don't want to be paid for this. This is one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. And we're gonna have another guy out here tomorrow that's having their first time out here. It's one of those things. I remember, I think it was Matt Hagan said it. I think Troy Coughlin said it. Antron Brown would say it. It just takes one run and the rest is history. You're gonna be watching every broadcast every morning. You're gonna be wondering, what tickets can I buy to come out here and get to experience this?
I was 13 years old when I watched Warren Johnson leave the starting line at Bristol, the old Bristol. He was driving a Monte Carlo that he described as the perfect driver training car, because if you could drive it to the finish line and not crash it, you were a driver. And he came off the starting line, wheels waist high. I could see him with the old Lenco levers, pull second gear with the front wheels waist high in the air, driving with one hand. And I said from that point, I said, I knew I loved this sport, but I got to be out here more. And I found a way to come out here and make a living out of this. And that's what we've done with Competition Plus.
You mentioned Competition Plus. You're coming off 25th anniversary of that. You just renovated the site. I know you have a lot of plans going on. What do you have planned in the future for that site in the next coming years? I know you're working really hard with the Coromandel Classified site.
Well, it's very video friendly, so we're going to be pushing, Competition Plus TV, which this year is 13 years old. There was actually video in the first issue of Competition Plus in 1999, but the technology wasn't there. So we've always known that digital, all angles of digital was integral. And we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing. We could do all kinds of things. We could promote races. We could do all this other. But what do we really want to be good at? We really want to be good at putting out a magazine with news you can trust. And I feel like that's what we've been doing.
Well, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to see what you guys are going to be doing later this year.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Protect your vehicle with peak original equipment technology. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
No, don't do it. Sitting with us now, the newest six-time Pro Stock champion in the series, Greg Anderson, coming off of an incredible championship season, trying to make it 7 now. What's it feeling like coming into Gainesville this year?
Well, it's great, Gainesville every year for me is special. I love coming here. I think this is probably the first racetrack I ever remember as a kid, as a fan. My father taking me to the Gator Nationals, and it was still I was young at the time, and obviously it's a long time ago, and we don't see it anymore. But you used to drive in over here, and they had a big alligator in the pond out there. And it scared the crap out of me when I'd see that thing. But that's what you thought of when you came to the Gator Nationals. We're going where that live alligator is. So when you're a kid, that's kind of intimidating. So wish they still had the poor guy out there. Apparently he passed on, but
Oh,
maybe we need to get a new gator out
I
there.
think there's one up in like a swamp
Is
up
there
on the
one down
top.
there in
I
the
think so. I
swamp?
think there's
Oh,
one up in the top end up there, if
well,
I
that's
remember
good to
hearing
know. I
that,
didn't know
because
that before,
that's
and
where Kurt keeps getting his videos
I'll try and
from.
make sure I don't go out the end of the racetrack then.
Every time we
That's not
come,
good.
every time we come here, Kevin's like, "Oh, I want to go see a gator." Like, no, the hell you don't want to see a gator. It's like you
I
don't know yet.
I don't really want to. No,
Yeah,
Listen,
I didn't back then. I don't now.
I'm an Indiana boy.
You don't have them gators up there, do you?
yeah. It's not like a Disney movie with Princess Frog. He ain't gonna sing you jazz and blues. Show tunes. You know, building off of the season, coming into this new one, you was finished 1-2 in the points of KV tie-in. You're still in this ongoing war with the Elite Motorsports, but now it's strengthened. You guys both have about 8 cars where now we're looking at a full field every single weekend. What's that process been like of bringing these guys up to par to where now we have about full 16-car fields of guys who can legitimately
Well,
win this race?
it's definitely a serious challenge for us to field that many cars, but then when you get to the racetrack, forget about it. It's not just about Greg Anderson anymore and trying to make a way to, find a way to make Greg Anderson's car good and his car win races. I've got 7 other guys, under my umbrella over there that I've got to tune their race cars and help them learn how to drive these cars better and things. And the flip side of it is every one of those cars basically has the same engine that Greg Anderson has. They have the same race car that Greg Anderson has. They have the same crew chiefs that Greg Anderson has. So what they don't have that I have is 30, 40 years of experience. What I don't have that they have is youth. I don't have that youth anymore. So it's a challenge for me and to go up against the very best equipment that we can build. I'm racing against it under my own tent. So it makes it difficult, but it's also really, really kind of rewarding to see it. When you can get the whole team to run well, like my car does, it's a rewarding feeling. It's a challenge. These race cars are all different and the drivers are all a little bit different. So if you can make them all put that pot together on all of them, make them all fast, it's a great challenge and it's what we come for. So right now we're kind of hitting on pretty much all cylinders with all the cars. The team is strong from top to bottom. They're all going to be strong this weekend, and every one of them has a chance to not only qualify for the race, but have a chance of going for the pole. So you never know. I can't tell you right now who's going to have the best shot of being the fastest car out there, but I hope when it's all said and done at the end of qualifying, I can say that number one, all 7 cars that I brought along are in the show, and number two, they're all qualified well. Maybe one of them's the number one qualifier. So looking forward to the weekend. We've got great conditions right now. It's only going to be 70, 75 degrees for the next couple of days. Sunday looks a little iffy with the weather, maybe, but it could change by then. We'll see. But either way, the qualifying is going to be an absolute dogfight. And as I said, I've got 7 cars. The elite group has got 8 or 9 cars. So right there, you've got somebody between the two of us going home. You know what I mean? And forget about you've got the McGawhas, you've got the Kenny Delcos. There's a whole bunch more guys that are trying to slide into that show. So somebody's going to be sad at the end of qualifying. And, our best that we can hope for is to put all our cars in the show.
You talk about the weather going into this weekend. It's gonna be. I've been talking to a lot of even the funny car drivers talking about this weather this weekend's gonna be prime. Talking about really low,
Yeah.
cool conditions on a track that even in the 90s can put down some really fast speeds, some low ETs. How excited does that make you being able to come out here for the first weekend and being able to really lay into it?
That's one of the reasons we love coming to Gainesville. It doesn't happen every year that you get conditions like that, but it's going to happen Friday afternoon.
Mhm.
Both those runs on Friday afternoon are going to be very possible record-setting runs, and we as pro stock drivers, we love that. We love to go fast, and our cars and our engines are so weather dependent that a lot of tracks we go to in the middle of the summer, we can't go fast, just can't go fast, and it takes a little bit of the fun away. But when you come to a place like this where you've got great weather conditions, you've got a great racetrack, and the cars run that fast, it adds a whole new twist to it, and it gets the drivers excited. I love it. I love it when the cars run that fast. You love seeing that incredible number that comes up on a scoreboard, because once we get into summer and a couple months later from now, you're not going to see those times, and you just got to race racetracks. So this weekend, you won't have to race the racetrack. The racetrack is basically going to take anything you can throw at it. It's never going to get over probably 100, 110 degrees surface temperature. So no excuses. And what that does is that equalizes the entire class and makes everybody where they're really able to make quality runs. And I've said this before, of the 16 cars that qualify, you probably only have 10 horsepower separating them. So whoever can do the best job of putting the product on the racetrack, the driver, the race car, and the crew chiefs, between those three things, if you don't do all three aspects perfect, then you're just going to be, another one of the cars out there. But if you can match all three together, and, those three ingredients on conditions like this, you can be a star.
You talked about coming off of that season, winning that sixth championship, going into Pomona. It was a long shot odds, but not out. And by the end of qualifying, you went in the media center and started doing your press conference interviews, and you started calling your shot then and there. It's like, we're not out of this thing. We're one of those guys that can really go out there with the heat of the day conditions that we have, can really set down some runs, and then you run it all the way into the finals, beat your teammate, and secure a sixth title to tie Erica Enders back again, what you had prior.
Yeah.
By the end of the night, you could see the look on your face of how much that meant to you. In terms of the six championships, where does that one rank in particular for you?
Well, without a doubt, right now, it feels like the best one I've ever done. And obviously, I don't have to, give you all kinds of reasons. I'm not a young punk anymore. I'm not one of these young kids that it's not a challenge for them to cut double O and teen lights. They can do it effortlessly. Every time they roll to the starting line, they just know in their head they're going to be double O or teen, and it just comes easy. And guess I can remember that far back for me, it was a whole lot easier. At my age, that's not easy. I have to find something special every time I go out there on Sunday against these young kids to try and get close to them. And, yes, the odds looked stiff for me because, yes, my car was fast, but so was Dallas Glenn's car, so was Aaron Stanfield's car, so was a whole lot of other cars that we had to find our way through on Sunday. So the good news was the three of us controlled our own destiny. If any one of the three of us at the end of qualifying could win the event the next day, we would be the world champion. And that's how it turned out. And you can't ask for any more than that. That's a perfect cap to a season. That's the way it should be. That's, you want to bring up that complaint all the time, and NASCAR does too, right? When they go down to the final race and they've got 4 cars that can win, but there's 36 other cars or whatever on the racetrack that can mess their day up. Well, same with us. We had 3 people that could win, but we had, 13 other cars that could mess our day up. Well, it didn't happen. We controlled our own destiny, the 3 of us, and, that's just, we had a perfect day. I had an absolute perfect day behind the wheel as far as the car goes, as far as the crew chief's decisions were made. Everything was perfect. My car was great, and I was able to, cut good enough lights to win. So all you could ask for, the table was set exactly how you'd want to draw it up, and it just. I had the best day of the 3 of us. We all had great days. We all had great weekends, but mine was just a little better. And yeah, we found a way to get that 6th championship.
Now coming into 2025, one of the fun stories is not only the amount of cars that are going to be in this class, but also the names, because it's not only the new faces making their way in, but a lot of the returning faces from your past.
Yeah.
Guys like Jack Coughlin came back last year. You got Greg Stanfield coming back now. Dave Connolly came back for the shootout last year. What's it like now getting to have another shot to run with these guys, some of whom you haven't seen in almost 2 decades on the track?
Yeah, and it's great. And yes, I've had just so many humongous battles with Jake Coughlin, with Greg Stanfield, Dave Conley over the years. And it's funny you bring up Dave's name. He's obviously one of my crew chiefs, but is a very real possibility that sometime during this season he's going to get a chance to get behind the wheel again. So yes, that'll be extra exciting again. And just like I've got great history with Dave Conley and Jake Coughlin and Aaron Stanfield, and now I have to run these young guys. When those 3 came back, it's the same way for them, right? They remember what it's like, but now it's a different landscape out there. It's just not all the old veterans, the crusty old veterans you got to worry about. It's all these young guns that have great equipment and they're great drivers. So it's a tough challenge to win an NHRA national event anymore, let alone a championship. But it sure makes you feel good at the end of the day when you do get it done. So the class is fantastic right now. I feel fantastic being a part of it. And I've said it a million times. If we just had nothing but the young newcomers that got all this talent in the world, it would be an exciting class. But it's 10 times more exciting that you have all those new young comers that are very talented, and you have the grizzled old veterans. And I'm going to consider myself and Jake Coughlin and even Erica Hendrick. She's been out here a long time now. She's a veteran, and we have to find ways to channel our youth, channel our inner youth when we race these young cats, because when they roll up there, they could give a darn how many races you've won, how many championships you won. They just know when they stage against you, they're going to win that race, and they're cocky, but that's good. That's the way they should be, and I love that about them. And it's just fantastic racing right now.
One of the fun things about coming to the tracks, especially like this one, is the incredible turnouts that this venue is able to produce in particular. But one of the stories that I always follow within it is how many of them stick around after that last funny car makes a hit. It's always the mass exodus. Gainesville is one of the tracks where everybody stays regardless. But you talked about how exciting this class is now and the potential that it has. What is your message to those Nitro only fans to make them want to say, we're going to stay here
Yeah.
and watch these pro stock and pro stock bike classes come out here and throw down?
Well, I've been saying it for years. I feel that we have the best competition on the racetrack. And don't get me wrong, that is certainly not a slight against the fuel classes. The top fuel funny car classes are now so much more competitive than they used to be, and there's so many more cars in those classes now that are a threat to win every weekend. Where it's not just the 3 or 4 that it used to be for year after year. They've got depth now. They've got 10, 12, 14 cars that can win any given Sunday, just like we've had for a long time. But our deal has kind of been that way in pro stock for a long, long time, but it's even elevated even more now. Of these 16 cars that qualify, and I'm certainly on the inside, I know who should be the favorite or whatever. I can't pick who your winner should be any given Sunday. There's that many good ones. There's that many quality drivers out here and quality equipment, and that person should be able to win the race, and that people should be able to win, and that person should be able to win the race. You don't know who's the favorite anymore. So that's what's great about pro stock. It's just elevated to another level that we never thought we could get to, but that's why it's so much fun.
To wrap this all up, you come in here wearing the hoodie with the 6-time Pro Stock Championship, but also Hendrick cars on the side there. You've talked about in the past how much it means to have Rick Hendrick being one of the guys associated with you. You have these humongous names now attached to you, not just Rick Hendrick, but Kyle Larson, Brittany Forrest got at it, Prock just got at it, but also everybody in between. What's that like getting to have that group now combined with you as a partner of your team?
Well, it's all great, and I was, I guess, the first in drag racing that Rick Hendrick took a liking to or took an interest to and jumped in, and he's having so much doggone fun with it that he had to expand his team. So it's great, and it's made it so exciting for them over there. I mean, they're obviously a great NASCAR team, and they're a threat to win any given Sunday. But if they don't, they got the drag racers to depend on. Can my drag racers come through today? And I was fortunate enough last year. He didn't win with his NASCAR cars last year. Their season was over a week before ours. They were done. They got skunked. They did not win a championship. And they had a good year. They won a lot of races, but they didn't win a championship. And to Mr. Hendrick, it's all about that championship, that big trophy. He loves all trophies, but he really loves that big one. And I was his last shot, and we had a little get together the weekend before we left to go to Pomona, and yes, it was. He knew and I understood that it was still a long shot, but I told him, do not give up on me. I'm going to bring this trophy home to you. I'm going to save your year, and I'm going to win a championship for us, boss. So he probably didn't believe me at the time, but when he called me Sunday night, he was just laughing. He says, "You told me you were going to do it." He said, "You were right. I can't believe it. So you saved my year." And we were his last chance, I guess. So I guess that's why he expands his team. So he covers his bases and he gets as good a chance at the end of the year to bring some kind of big trophy home.
I remember back here in Chicago during the month of May, we were watching qualifying together to see where Kyle Larson would end up on the qualifying sheet for the 500. Are you going to start trying to put the pressure on to get you some passes this year to go out there for the grand spectacle?
I've never been to that. I told people last year I've never been to the Indy 500, and everybody's like, just please let us know this year if you can get a way to get there. We'll get you in, and we'd love to have you. So
Yeah.
I got to knock that off the bucket list maybe this
Gotta.
year.
You have to. Especially now that you got Larson confirmed to coming back. He's
Yep.
going to be driving Hendrick
Yep.
Cars card.
Yep.
Now it's a better time than ever.
No, it's awesome.
Last question. What we talk about coming in this weekend? You're going to have a really, really fast racetrack. Do you have a checklist of speeds, ETs that you want to set? Like, what's the checklist besides the obvious thing of bringing home a Gatornats Wally?
Well, the way the weather forecast looks on Sunday, or it's Friday. I'm sorry, Friday looks like a possible record-setting day. And that's the first day of qualifying. So it's not like you're gonna get a chance to go out there on Friday, kind of feel your stuff out, and see where you're at and set up for Saturday. You got to be ready on Friday. The field's going to be set on Friday, and the records are going to be set on Friday. So we came here and tested it a little bit on Tuesday and Wednesday. We've got a few runs down this racetrack already, so we're not going into it blind. We know what the racetrack is. We know what the weather's going to be. The engine tune-up should be good. We should be able to take a great shot at that pole on Friday. And as I say, Friday is going to be a great day of racing for all these race cars. It's going to set the fields in most all classes. So do not miss. It's absolutely something you do not want to be not a part of. going to be a memorable day.
Oh, I bet. Well, I can't wait to see what you guys got planned for tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for sitting down with me, and I can't wait to see what you guys have planned for the season.
You bet.
And hopefully we see you in Speedway in May.
Sounds wonderful. Thanks, guys.
All right, appreciate it.
All right.
Protect your vehicle with Peak original equipment technology. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
Right, we're now joined here with Pro Stock Motorcycle Racer Steve Johnson, Mr. 500 races under his belt. You come into 2025, were able to do some preseason testing this week, getting ready for the Gator Nationals. How was the whole offseason and the preseason test going for you?
Well, I didn't fall off.
Yeah, that's a good start.
We didn't go very far down the track, but it's hey man, the first race of the year, I think one of our goals is just to get down the track, make sure that the engine's still in one piece and everything that we've tried doesn't fall off in the water burnout.
Yeah. I remember seeing some of the new guys come out there and they would go straight for the burnout and the bike would just stall, would not refire. So at least you made it past the tree. 2023, you had a really good run for the championship. You had a really good couple of national events. You won Bristol, and that was a big moment for you. I remember being in the media center for that. Obviously, 2024 was a bit of a headache for you. The big highlight was that 500th national event. What were some of those changes that you've been trying to making in the offseason to try and get it to a point where you're back in that 2023 form?
I was, a lot of times in life, you think you are doing what makes you happy. And I started wondering about this drag racing deal. I keep saying my mom wanted me to do construction or be a box boy or, like fill a grocery store. And I was like, I'm going to make this work. So when we were closing in on 500, it was like, hey, if you go to all the races, every year for 35, 38 years, you can have 500 races too. So to get that kind of done and out of the way was really good because then it could open us back up to really thinking about the engines. And I got sidetracked. So 2024 was definitely a struggle. I think trying all different kinds of things from bodywork to engine things and even riding styles. So when we started riding, it was all from the street races, in Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley. It's just like, hang on to the motorcycle and try to be on it at the finish line. That's one of the rules. You got to be on the bike when it crosses the finish line. So we were just hanging on. Now, gosh darn, there's all kinds of technique. George Bryce has been promoting the Surge and the Ram for a long time. There's people sitting up. Dave Schultz sat up, straight up, and I would crouch down a lot. Great Steve Evans did a whole piece on that. So I think to answer your question, I really want to get back to the fundamentals, just the simple fundamentals of drag racing a pro stock motorcycle. Leaving the line with the motorcycle, holding it wide open, staying on your target, and making sure that you push the button when the light comes on. If that happens, we'll be in great position.
One of the stories coming into this year is that new fuel combination, no longer on a Sunoco. You're in that VP Racing fuel. You spent obviously a lot of time in the engine room trying to get that set up so that way the bike could go down there with that new fuel combination. How much of a challenge has it been over the offseason to get the bike tuned to where it is able to run with that fuel combination?
For us, I think to start off with is we're the only ones that I believe run carburetors, probably in the whole Mission Series across the whole all the professional categories. So the carburetors, in one hand, should be real easy, right? There's not a lot of thumb punching and mistakes being made on the computer screen when you're loading in a map. So a couple of jets here and there, some timing. You move the boots back and forth, which the fuel injection guys and girls would do, but it really hasn't been any rocket science at all. It's just turn the timing up until it falls off, and then you're good to go. And so it was really a simple process for us.
Talk about going back to the fundamentals, try and get ready for this season to try and get the bike back to where it is. Do you have kind of a goal in mind of what you want to run, what you want to set as a mile an hour or an ET to where you can able to walk away from this event and say, this is a good starting point to try and build off of this?
Well, I think if you have to be within 400s, 500s of the quickest person to really have something that you can be proud of or at least allow you to strive. Pro stock car is amazing. We watched some incredible runs with pro mod lately and even in fuel. So our class is so unique because there's just not a lot of people doing engines, and I have focused so hard on doing engines, and it's a learning process. So I have an incredible a team that helps me. So it's you know, I'm happy when the engine is starting and it's running and it's doing its burnout and it goes all the way down the track. I'm happy with that. But I'm really excited, like we were in 21 and especially in 22, when we were the top of the heap. So I need to get back to that. Matt Smith has shown all of us that there is more to this class than just building engines and riding the motorcycle. The politicking on the other side of the coin is, I'm not dogging him out. He's just showed that there is another position there, and NHRA listens for all different kinds of reasons: social media, pressure from sponsors, pressure putting on a great show for the class, or putting on making sure that the class is competitive, so the fan and the sponsors see a great show. So there's all kinds of perspective of that, and he's brought in a new angle to be able to push and to be able to manipulate a little bit. And so that's a viable thing, because we don't all have the same engine combination, so there's different weights. So sandbagging is obviously one of the terms that's been used a lot. um, how do you stop a 640-pound motorcycle in a quarter of a mile at some of the tracks is challenging. So they say. I've never had a problem, and we have a single disc on the front of our motorcycle. So there's just, our class is got so much behind the scenes that goes on. There's actual rivalries, and there's actual people who don't like each other. They just flat don't like each other. So, and I think it's good. So there's so much going on that, again, the fundamentals are: skip all that stuff and make sure that your burnout's right, your crew guy's not standing in the staging lanes, you let go of the clutch when the light comes on, and you pop you hit the air shifter, and you make sure you go down the track with all your gears, and finish line, shut down safely, and pull over and wipe your brow and be happy.
You mentioned kind of that beef that broke out last year. Sadly, that you got dragged right into the middle of that. We don't have to go too much into the specifics on what happened, but how much of a wrench did that throw into things? Of now, not only are you trying to get this bike to go down the racetrack, but now you're having to deal with comments being thrown at you about who you are or what you're about, when you had no dog in the fight, and then you just got completely thrown right into the middle of a pit.
Well, when you're here for a while, or any part in your society, as a human being, your lifestyle, you either get hurt by what somebody says, or you blow it off. Well, in our business, it's a little bit sponsor driven, and so we can concentrate on trying to get a big sponsor, but then the engine program will suffer. So I'm really committed at the engine program. So um, the social media side of it, Emma handles it, and she does a really good job for us. And I think we've grown it a lot. Some of the trash that the knucklehead wants to drag out and air a bunch of stupid stuff just to get likes, or just to
Hmm.
get people looking. People love it. Everybody loves drama as long as it's not theirs, right? So I get that, but his character has hurt his persona, not only at the drag races, but as a person. So I think when you communicate with the sponsors, and you communicate with your friends, and you communicate with the sanction body, and let them know exactly what is said, or what you feel when it's brought up, I think that should be taken as 100%. And if anybody else is worried about what somebody said you said, I think you have to, you can fight those battles all day long. So I want to stick with working on the engines, keep the people that are happy and that like me and are supportive, keep those people engaged, and move on. And let the dogs. When you hang out with trash, you'll be trash.
Exactly. And, one of the things that I followed, and it was something that was on my mind, especially this week. I went down to Bike Week to go meet up with some friends, and I drove by Daytona, and I see the midway that they have set up there, and all the bike OEMs that are out there, like Kawasaki, Yamaha, Honda, all the Indian, all these big name motorcycle companies have these giant midways, and you look in, motocross, supercross, flat track racing, super bike racing. these OEMs are so heavily invested in these programs, but for whatever reason, drag bike racing is not one of them. And as someone who's been in this class for a while, who can understand it both from a rider's perspective, but also an engine builder's perspective, what's one of those things that you think can be done to try and make this more enticing to an OEM to make them say, why haven't we been in this yet? Why are we still not a part of this? What do we need to do to invest into it?
The first thing is the people that are in charge have to relate some kind of sales. There has to be some relationship to where the consumer is at our event, they see a vehicle, they see something, and it promotes a buying habit, or at least a purchase. And I think from the street bike standpoint, the National Hot Rod Association and a drag bike is a great relationship with a street bike. Where it becomes an issue from the factory is Suzuki's been involved, Kawasaki's been involved, Honda's been involved, and Yamaha has been involved. They've all been involved. Harley Davidson. I think the trouble that they see is the expense has to obviously be less than the revenue, the return on the revenue. And right now, to be able to build an OEM engine, I don't think that you have to have a brand new Kawasaki engine to put in a drag bike and say Kawasaki ZX14 on the side of it. I don't think you have to have that engine in there. I think the important part is I'm using Kawasaki parts. It's a Kawasaki engine, and based upon the rules that the sanction body has, this is the best opportunity for me to win on a Kawasaki. And when we can convey that to Honda and Yamaha, BMW, anybody, KTM, who look what's going on with them. I think anybody, when they can relate the fact that we can have somebody over here with a tractor trailer, fly a Yamaha, fly Kawasaki, Honda, Kawasaki, whatever it is, and be competitive and interact with the fans, and then be able to use those pit bikes that we ride on the street and use those as pit bikes running back and forth. I think that drives the brand. And I think being able to convey that to the OEMs is the important part. And I don't know if that's being done. I don't know if it's ever been done at a high level.
That sounds very similar because that's Gage Ferrer. That's that question too, and he almost said the same thing, and he even just straight up said, bring a spec engine. Is that something that you think is the direction that we could go into to possibly make it to where, he says, it's a Suzuki engine, but it's built by Vance and Hines. Is spec the way to go, in your opinion, to try and make this more enticing from a perspective to make these OEMs think about coming back over here?
I think we're really close to a spec engine. I think because we have V twins and inline fours, I don't think we're at a position to where we can kick either one of them in the teeth and say we're all going to have V twins or we're all going to have inline fours. I think the inline four thing is obviously a little bit more reasonable. I guess that's not even fair because I've been an inline four guy. But a spec engine would be, ultimately that's what Pro Stock has. Pro Mod has got an incredible category with all kinds of power adders. Somehow they keep that close. In Top Fuel, I feel like that's kind of a spec engine. They've got different people make cylinder heads and camshafts and stuff like that. But I think the spec engine, a set of cases and a cylinder head or two of an inline four, I'd love to see that. I'd love to be like Pro Stock car and have that. And then you put whatever body on it you want. You put an FJ on it. You put a Kawasaki, a Suzuki, or even Yamaha. It's like anybody you could put on there, and I think that would be on fire. But you'd have to be. It can't be some racer going to the OEM and say, "Hey, man, give me $1 million so I can go race your motorcycle, or at least put a body on it." Vance and Hines spent, I think, $250,000 building that Hayabusa body. So, no racer is going to be able to do that out of their own pocket just because they are loyal to a Kawasaki or one of the other OEMs. But that's what it would take, and I think we would all do way better. And I don't think that you would even have to have it across the board. I think we could still race the V twins out here. You're always going to have arguing. As long as there's the different kinds of engines, you're always going to have piston and monin, whoever it comes from. but I still think that if we did a good job and put a motorcycle, uh, even a Vance and Hines engine, an OEM engine, and branded it with a cylinder head. It's an aftermarket cylinder head, so it can be anybody's cylinder head, right?
Mhm.
It's 4 valves per cylinder. Put that together, you badge it with whatever brand you want, and then you put the bodywork on it. The bodywork has to match the branding of the engine.
Kevin, you know what that sounds like? LMDH regulations.
Oh yeah.
The LMDH have like what is it? They have like a set motor like specification they need to follow, but you can do any kind of body work you want onto it,
Uh-huh.
and it's really cost effective. And we've seen like what 9, 10 makes come out of it. Do you think kind of that might be the way to go? It's just make a set list of a spec engine that you want, but the OEMs can go make their own. But it keeps it in a way it's cost effective for them to be able to want to do this, but also be able to thrive in a way. Because you look over there, to have some of the best looking cars in racing. Do you think that's kind of the way it needs to go? Is just kind of go for like a set spec list, but you can still make it on your own,
I'm
and just deal around balance the performance rules?
I feel like I'm a little bit of a realist. It's like effort equals results. That's a really popular saying. And I believe that we could go out and get a sponsor. But as I said, it takes a lot of effort. You can't do it part-time. And I think what you're talking about is the same thing. If you want to change if we want to change the class, if the sanction body wants to change the class, it's not like, hey, Mike, go down and talk to Kawasaki. It's not like that. And I'm not saying that the sanction body would do that, but you got to remember, this is a car sanction body, and we are fortunate. We're blessed to be able to race with them at this level and have this amount of people watching us, this amount of series sponsor, race at these kind of facilities with this kind of leadership team, the TV package, everything. We are really, really fortunate as motorcycles in the United States to be able to do this in drag racing. But to take it to the next level, it needs a brand manager. It needs a brand manager that has a team. You've got to be able to deliver value to these OEMs.
So would you say maybe the next step is kind of because I know you guys used to be part of Pro, and I don't think you are
We
any.
were I started Pro 2 in '97.
Yeah.
And we always said, if we all wanted pink wheelie bars, how do we go to the sanction body and tell them we want pink wheelie bars? Or better yet, if we want more money to race, how do we do that? And there's a business plan. I asked what 5 things they all wanted, and they told me. And I said, what 5 things can we give back to the sanction body when I'm in the meeting to say, hey, we'll return these kind of values to you if you can help us. So it's the same thing. I should really quit, and then I should become the brand manager of the class, and try to put that together. But there's no guarantees anywhere. But I do believe that if you had the marketing department and the sales department of the National Hot Rod Association to build you the materials to be able to go and show those OEMs, I believe you could put something together in a couple of years.
So maybe I think the first step is just get everybody in a room together, because right now you talk about the divisiveness in the class between the three big teams. Is the first step just kind of get them all to sit down and think, what do we need to do to make this better?
We've had that. The first step is for me to quit.
Oh, come on.
No,
First,
no.
you pay 500, like, okay, I'm done.
We need somebody. We need somebody that is. We need a brand. I mean, it's all over the world. There's brand managers. There's Crest toothpaste has a brand manager. The sanction body has a brand manager. A grocery store has they're smart. You call it marketing department, brand managers. Our scholarship, the Batman scholarship on our website. There's a brand manager that handles every part of that. So we need a brand manager that will run the class. And there needs to be a brand manager, I would believe, for all the categories. And then what you do with the brand manager is on the internet, you say, this is how much a truck and trailer costs. This is how much a team costs. This is what hotels cost. This is the food. These are the parts that you have to buy. This is the insurance. This is the facility that you have to have. Now you have, okay, if I want to race pro stock motorcycle, I need $600,000. I need these 4 people. They're flying in, and this is the insurance that I need, and these are the people and the vendors that I buy, and all that stuff's laid out. So when you want to be a franchisee of a Starbucks or McDonald's, you get a packet. If you want to be a franchisee of a dog grooming, they talked about the best franchisees, the best franchises to buy into. Well, when you pick up the phone and you call one of those, they're gonna send you a packet. We should have that same packet for every category, or better yet, we should have that same packet for pro stock motorcycles. This is how you do it on the cheap. This is how you do it on the full-fledged thing. This is what the sanction body expects. It's somewhere in between there, and then you lay it out. Now it's not only not only a position, but it's a business position. Wow, I can get $600,000 and I can get sponsorship. I can spend 600 grand, but I can get sponsorship for $1 million. I could net 400 grand, and I'm just throwing numbers out. But to have that information, it's a data world. Without the data, you can't make a decision.
Final question for you. One of the things that I like to follow, and I've asked all the pro stock and bike riders that have come in here, is when you, especially for tracks like this, how massive of a fan base that comes out for these events. When that final funny car run ends, you see the aisleways just fill up and people leave. And I've been trying for the past few years to try and put the bait out there for these fans to say, this is something you need to pay attention to. It's not just Nitro, it's the stock kids that you need to watch. What would your message be to those fans to try and set that bait out and entice them to want to say, let's go sit here and see what these two-wheel guys have to show?
There are things in life that are incredible, from sporting events to humanitarian philanthropy, and business ventures. There's incredible things, but how many people know about all these things? So it's not really to the sense of, hey, how does the philanthropist, communicate his message? It's really about the infrastructure of what's going on. I really believe that this kind of thing really falls from the sanction body. Yes, our social media can drive interest, and that makes a big difference. But I ultimately believe that pro stock and pro stock motorcycles should maybe be in between Top Fuel and Funny Car, and let the fans see something that they haven't seen. When you're stuck on a marketing mission that says Top Fuel, and you come and see that, it's hard for you to see other things. You're lucky when you walk out of the stands and you happen to bump into somebody and you turn around and there's funnel cakes. Oh, I love funnel cakes. I'm going to get me a funnel cake. But if that situation wouldn't have happened, or if you weren't hungry, you might not have ever seen that. It's a little corny of an analogy. It works. But if you go to Walmart and you look at Walmart when we were selling Slick 50, and you look at all the power brands, you see the little guy in between. When Procter and Gamble has a new product, they'll put it in between their powerful brands to let people see that. So the human eye, when you look at a magazine or you look on your monitor screen, you look straight ahead and to the right. That's what a human being does. So you have to understand some of these things on how to promote our class. That's another weird analogy, but to drive the fact that that guy hates that guy, or that girl is that they're husband and wife racing each other, or that's a V twin and that's an inline four. That's a Honda against Kawasaki. All of these things that the sanction body can do to help build up that, and then drive that with social media on the back end. I think that helps the drive the interest from the fans staying in the stands and saying, "Oh, I've heard about this. I've seen this." They love crash, they love fire. I mean, I don't know. I can hit a detonator button and the wheelie bar will catch on fire at half track. Maybe that's what I should do.
Put some sparklers on the back of it when you hit the quarter-mile mark.
I did that. I did that when I was going to go to Japan, and Dave Schultz said, "Please don't do that."
Well, this has been a really fun conversation. It's been a lot of fun getting to pick your brain and see what you think about this. Good luck this season. Good luck this weekend. Can't wait to see what you guys have in store.
Thanks, guys. Check out our website and definitely follow us on our social media platforms. It's fun to come out here, but it's really fun to be involved. So consider a motorcycle, and you could be in the dirt too. Dirt bikes are a lot of fun.
And flat tracks racing. I know Clay's out there. Real quick, just so that way they know, what is the website?
SteveJohnsonRacing.com.
There you go. Awesome, man. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks, man.
Yep, thank you.
Take your original equipment technology
right, well, we're back and we're gonna wrap it up. We've been doing this since we started at 110. We were supposed to end it around between 3 and 4. And now it's 4:41, so we went about an hour over. But we have Steve Johnson. You're gonna have that happen. Really fun day. I hope you guys enjoyed it. First off, gotta give a shout out. First off, Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. Be sure to sign up for that. Really fun game. They're gonna have a lot of cool prizes this year. You've seen some of them in the past. Follow them on social media pages. Be sure to go check out the website. You can find them there. Most of all, thank you to our partners at Peak Auto. Been massive supporters of the channel since last year, and they continue to improve and upgrade their involvement with the channel. So please, whenever you get a chance, follow them at Peak Auto. But also, when you go buy your antifreeze or go buy a windshield wiper fluid, you can find Peak. Buy it because they are so heavily invested in the sport. So you gotta really return it on them to help them succeed in this, because that really helps them want to stay with us and help support the channel. So support those who support you. Thank you to them. You're going to be seeing a lot of them throughout the year, especially during the middle part of the season. We have a lot of things planned with them, and they've been some massive, massive supporters. So please go out there, buy some antifreeze. You're going to need it at some point. Why not now? And washer fluid. Be sure to follow the pages down below, Mighty Mac 03, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. For in terms of updates to the channel, we have some big things planned. I'm going to try and get some things done in May. You're going to see the same graphics for the first few races, but we have some new ones that are going to debut in time for our month of May coverage, which we are bringing back. That one's also going to be sponsored or powered by Peak as well. So, we have a lot of big things planned. We're going to keep growing this channel, and thank you guys so much for being a part of it and supporting the channel all along the way. We're going to have a lot of fun content planned for this weekend here for the Gator Nationals to kick off the season. Hopefully, the rain stays away so that way we can enjoy it to its fullest. But, regardless, we're hopefully going to see some records broken this weekend, because especially with the weather, it's going to be prime tomorrow. This is going to be a really, really fast racetrack, and I think these guys are going to get really, really aggressive. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss out any of the upcoming action. And until tomorrow night to wrap up day 1 of the 2025 NHRA season, this has been Mighty Mac. We're going to see you next time.
Technology